The following show may shock, disturb, and offend some viewers. The opinions, theories, and facts shared on this podcast are not widely accepted by the brainwashed masses, especially those who find dark humor offensive. Viewer discretion is advised.
Jeffrey Dahmer soaked in blood. The Unabomber blowing up. Waco, Texas, and Heaven's Gates. Aliens modified, meant for apes. JFK shot in the head by the CIA. Bigfoot and the Mothman. Son of Sam talking to dogs again. Witches, ghosts, and goblins. Mysterious noise and hauntings. Dark arts and the skull and bones. Most celebrities are probably cloned. So if you're feeling all alone, crack a beer and get stoned. I welcome you to the podcast Strange Brew. We're here to entertain you. We're here to entertain you.
It's about to get strange.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Welcome back. I am one of your hosts, Tomcat, aka Tom Thompson, the Reptilian, and this will be interesting. Who do I have as my co-host? This is kind of a rare thing that Billy is here.
Yeah, no, Billy's here. I'm excited.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I still haven't got a nice little intro name like that. I need to
figure it out.
You can make one for me.
Yeah, I'll have to. You and Aaron both. So yeah, this will be interesting. Billy's never really came on an episode with a guest with me. Normally we'll do an episode together about whatever weird subject we decide to talk about. So this will be interesting to kind of hear Billy's thoughts about some of this stuff that we're going to be talking about. And our guest, I'm really excited for this. Can you introduce yourself, sir?
Sure. My name's Paul. I run a YouTube channel called Understanding Conspiracy, and I am predominantly known for the theory the Nephilim looked like clowns. I'm the author of the book, which was published just last year in July. Currently writing the second installment, and yeah, that's me in a very quick nutshell.
Congratulations.
That's awesome. I would definitely have to check out the book. And just to kind of get started, like, how did you get into this stuff? Like, how did you specifically this avenue? Because it's interesting, really. Like, you know, I like covering all sorts of conspiracies. There's never been one I've like honed in on where I'm like, you get kind of obsessed with it. And it's interesting because I know another buddy that does a show and he got obsessed with the homunculus type of aspect of like the alchemical kind of magic. And it's interesting. I just want to know like kind of how you got into this. Like what kind of started to go that direction?
No, it wasn't on purpose. I can tell you that much. I don't really care about clowns, you know. I'm not an enthusiast or anything. I'm not a juggalo, you know what I'm saying? I'm not like somebody who dressed like a clown on Halloween or something, or I don't have posters of the Joker on my wall or anything like that, and I don't rave about the Dark Knight version of the Joker on a regular basis. Right? I just don't care about them. They're just not something that was on my radar necessarily. Mm-hmm. It's just that I have this YouTube channel called Understanding Conspiracy, and I came into being a conspiracy theorist, I suppose, in like 2012. I woke up, shall we say, for lack of a better phrase. You know, I fell down the Warren holes and got deep into all the occult stuff and started researching the truths about the reality that we actually live in and the control mechanisms and the secret societies and all that kind of thing. And naturally, when you're kind of swimming in that world, you learn a thing or two. And I come from an art background. I have an art degree in fine art, and I kind of created this channel as a result of doing fine art at university and kind of waking up in 2012, like I said, and you know, I spent a few years kind of researching anything and everything to do with the occult and psychedelic new age philosophies and things like this as well, you know, and understanding the spiritual dimensions. And I got into the Christian perspective as well, and I was born again in 2014. I believe that's the truth, you know, and I kind of got into biblical history and swum around in that for a while, but kind of like the conspiracy theorist, Christian, contrarian, biblical history, the stuff you don't learn in church, you know, about the giants and the Nephilim and the genetic corruption of the past and all this type of stuff, which it's just, you just don't talk about that in Sunday school. But that got me, you know, and that really woke me up to the Bible. It opened the whole story up for me in a way that it wasn't opened up before, you know. I was very much anti-religious growing up, I would say, and more new age spiritual prior to all of this. But during my studies in biblical history, I kind of kept bumping into some of the great names in the past in the conspiracy world that were kind of discussing the giants, the Nephilim of the past. And they were always doing these presentations where they would show like a really tall, hench, tanned looking caveman looking giant, you know, with a club or something like this with like brown dreadlocks. And it never sat right with me, like as correct. Like that is just not how they would have looked. Is all. I just knew this. I don't know. It was like an instant knowing based on everything we'd researched and studied. I mean, you look at the descriptions of like the Zamzu memes, for example, you know, in the Bible, and the name literally means the shrieking, terrifying ones, you know, or the long-necked ones is another example. You know, they have these crazy descriptors about them. Like the name meanings are very descriptive about them being absolutely mortifyingly terrifying to behold, you know, and not like just a giant person with a bit of a tan and some large pectoral muscles. They were like monsters, you know, beyond all comprehension, I imagine. And I just knew that much in the early beginning. So I thought about that concept. And when you actually look into biblical history and you look into the Book of Enoch and how the Nephilim came to actually be at all, and this is not just biblical, this is the story everywhere, all over the earth, which is what my book covers quite a lot of, and what my work also covers, is that heavenly beings from another place came to earth and mixed themselves with human women. And the product are these ever-growing monsters, just these giants, what we call the Nephilim, and that's where they come from, and that's where we get demons from today. So when they die, they're stuck here on Earth. Soul, essence, nefesh, spirit, whatever you want to describe the thing that isn't their body aspect of themselves. Well, that's still here on Earth, but the body just disappears. But they're stuck. Biblically speaking, when humans die, we don't actually wander the earth as ghosts. You're supposed to just sleep. You're not present anymore, in a sense. You're being like in like a form of timeless stasis before the judgment at the end of time, you know, before the new heaven and earth. So it's like you're going to sit there for a few thousand years and we'll bring you back when it's time for judgment type of stuff. So, but these Nephilim don't have that. They're just here, literally like ghosts wandering around on the earth without a body. And that's why we have a demon problem. They like
it is so interesting because I know that you got when I heard you on Tinfoil Hat, I heard that you got into like the psychedelics, and I've went down that road. And I've seen, and we just did an episode about angels, and I swear I've seen like the seraphim where like it's all the thousands of eyes, and it's like a frightening kind of thing. Billy has done them once, and it was like the worst trip ever, and he never wanted to do it again because he took way too much. But he can even remember, like 2012 too. He'll remember we worked together. We've been friends for a long time. And I was like thinking the world was coming to an end, and I was talking about reptilians and all sorts of things. And it's like once you start to see that stuff and you kind of wake up to it. But it's interesting that where your journey went, that you were essentially like you got sober, you don't touch any of that stuff anymore. I still dabble once in a while, but it does really show you this alternate reality. And I've always thought like maybe like is there demons or something inside of those realms? Because I've seen weird things in the fractals, and it's like maybe
like I said, that's my background. I'm come from a psychedelic tripping background. I was doing it. I was microdosing every day for like 2 years straight at one point. You know what I mean? You know, LSD and the rest. And it's kind of I was experimenting with consciousness, as they say. You know, what levels? How deep can you go? What levels of perception can you get to? What happens if you do stay in this state for a prolonged period of time, and so forth. You know, and then I got to the hard stuff like dimethyltryptamine. The synthesized crystalline form, and I was trying to find those breakthrough things.
What do you think about DMT? Because I've only done mushrooms. I've always wanted to try acid. What do you think of like the differences between what you experienced with each one?
Yeah, well, there are distinct differences. I think salvia, for example, is a deliriant. It completely sends you into a lost state of consciousness where you don't even know who you are or what's going on, and you lose yourself. Which is a stark contrast to something just as powerful like DMT, but you know who you are, and it's more crystalline and clear and focused, you know. But then you do something like LSD, which is the synthesized psilocybin. Well, psilocybin in its natural form is quite a gloopy, gooey, bubbly, earthy experience. You know, it's like the air is like syrup, you know what I mean? And the visuals are quite wavy and lava lamp-like, you know. But then when you do something like LSD, again, crystalline, perfect linear, fractal geometries coming out in all things. You still have your sense of self. Your body's still functioning. But there's a heavy body high with something like psilocybin as compared to the LSD. I'd say heavy body high with something like salvia, which is heavily plant-based, salvia divinorum, but it's a lot more of a head high, body still here, functioning when you do something synthesized like DMT. So there are stark differences. And I find no matter which one you do, I don't think you're going to a different place with each drug. I think you're going to the exact same place, Earth. You're just perceiving more of it with it's like each drug is a special wacky lens, but it's the
Billy,
same
did
thing
you
you're
ever
looking
do
at,
salvia?
you know.
You didn't
Yeah,
do
they
it,
used
did
to
you?
sell it at the corner store.
Yeah, in
They did,
Canada,
yeah.
they would sell it
Yeah.
at the corner store in Canada.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
Legal.
I wonder
Yeah.
when they
Head shops
stopped doing
completely
that.
legal. Yeah, it should not be. Honestly, that stuff
Well,
is.
the only experience we ever had with that was one friend. Yeah, we go out. Must have been like 17, 18. We go out, we grab some. Guys are like, "Oh, this is gonna be a great time." I'm like, all right, sure, we're gonna go sit down and have some. I tried it first. I don't remember, and then I was there. It lasted what, 30 seconds, 45 seconds? I don't know.
Yeah, it's not long.
Buddy beside me tries it. He walks over to the kitchen, grabs a knife, and starts charging me. I'm like, yeah, no, we're not doing this anymore.
That's crazy.
I can believe it. That stuff
Yeah.
is not a joke. Like that's
Yeah.
just not. It just fell through the cracks, but it's like equally as powerful as DMT. You know what I mean?
This
It's
is
like
crazy.
and again, I was like 17 doing it, watching these videos on YouTube of people laughing like hyenas, you know, thinking that looks sick. I wonder what they're seeing, you
It's
know.
gonna be a fun
And you
time.
get it. Yeah, you like a fun time. Exactly. And all my friends were doing it at the time, like laughing like hysterically and losing themselves. And I did it a couple of times, and my first trip was terrifying. Like it was my first psychedelic experience, and all I did was go "no" really loud, and then I was gone
like
for
this.
like
No.
5 minutes.
No!
Yeah. I'm paralyzed for 5 minutes, just staring into the void, you know, and then I'm back, and I'm like, okay, I'm not doing that again, because you do just go to this place that just shatters your reality. It's like everything is not what I thought it was, and I suppose that was my nexus point into even just questioning the physicality of reality. That experience opened it up for me. I'm like, okay,
Billy
so
had one experience. It was done. Tell him the story. You took too much.
What was different? So yeah, okay. Long story short, I meant to take 3.5 grams of mushrooms my first time, and I ended up taking 7.
Okay.
And he kept writing "fuck," "I'm fucked," and couldn't write the word "fuck."
I just like the entire experience though. That's the difference of most people are like, oh, it kind of felt that way, or it opened up a different thing to me. I felt like it dumbed me down way too much. Like
there's a body high with psilocybin.
Well, not just that,
It's
the brain
really
was gone.
heavy.
My brain
Yeah.
was done. It was toast. I've been trying to explain this so many different ways, but the only way I physically can that I feel like even kind of makes sense is I feel like I had Down syndrome when I did it. Like my cognitive thoughts were gone. I couldn't form a sentence. I knew what I wanted to say, and I just physically fucking couldn't, and it drove me nuts.
You just offended our one Down syndrome listener. Just kidding.
Well, no, but like, just I don't know how else to explain it.
I'm
Like, I
just
really
kidding.
don't. Like my brain,
You do
my
lose
IQ
you lose
dropped
all
100.
faculties. You do.
That's wild.
I get you. It's hard, man. It's really hard. For me,
Didn't
it
like
was
it.
like that. Like even just like watching at the time when I did it, I was in a living room full of a lot of people, and
Oh yeah.
you get this sense. It's like, what are they thinking about me, and how do I? You get this weird separation from reality, and they were all playing a video game. What was it called? It was this great video game, like racing game. I can't remember. They don't do it anymore, but it had a split screen. It was during the days of like 4-player split screen, you know. And I was watching like all
Need for
4
Speed,
cars
or-
race at once. Normally, you can only focus on one at a time, but when you're on
Oh,
this
yeah.
drug, you kind of have like and I could just see like these cars like moving like torpedoes
cool.
at all at once. But my body, like I was just
Mario
glued to
Kart,
the
you mean?
sofa. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak.
Mario Kart.
I was confused whether or not my thoughts or my voice were one and it's like, did I just say that? Or did I think that? You know, you don't know anymore. Like your thoughts sound like speaking
You
words.
become hyper focused too. I was doing it like almost every other weekend for a summer, and like we go watch movies out back on a projector.
doing it
Like I
every
watched
day.
some horror movies on mushrooms, and I would even my wife was like, I would just like be like, "Are you okay? Is everything okay? Do you feel okay?" Like it just like hyper focus on how she's feeling, what she's thinking. And she's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Like just getting annoyed with me. It is an interesting, interesting drug. I wouldn't even call it like I would say that psilocybin can be used as a medicine, but I think you have to be very careful of kind of what doors you're maybe opening. Chris from Forbidden Knowledge News, he's had crazy experiences where he like talked to entities and saw his girlfriend shapeshift. So I'm glad I really didn't have some of that stuff. Like the entities might have been kind of fun to some extent, but like he saw some crazy, thought he was dead in hell. And I'm like, I had nothing like that, but still weird experiences. And so you got kind of directed towards Christianity and then started really diving into like the Nephilim stuff, right? And
Well,
stepping
yeah,
away
I
from
mean,
the
look,
psychedelics.
when you're in that world, you go on forums, you know, like Nexus and things like this, and you kind of see people talk about trip reports of like seeing entities, like jesters was a really common occurrence. People see jesters in extreme cases, and it's actually quite common, you know. And Terence McKenna would talk about the self-transforming machine elves and the self-dribbling basketballs that people see, you know, and the gnomes, you know, the gnomes in these places. And I always had this in my mind, but I never saw any myself. And I kind of thank God I didn't in the end. And I kind of like, you look back and you wonder why. And I'm thinking like, well, I think from where I was at in my life at that point, I think demons would have been happy for me to think they didn't exist still. They would have just happy for me to continue my sin, doing what I was doing, full hedonistic lifestyle for, you know, drugs, sex, and rock and roll type lifestyle. You know, it was just live for myself, live for the moment, screw everyone else type of attitude. And I think if I had demons attached to me in any way, they would have been happy for me to do those things.
Just
and
feeding
just to think,
off it. That's what I felt. I messed around with the Ouija board when I was really young, and I feel like it cursed me. Like we were like 12, 13, using it, like going home at like lunch in grade 7 to my house to use it, like too much almost. And I feel like it opened doorways, and I don't think you know what
probably
you're messing with when you're that young. Like.
Yeah, but same for psychedelics. They also open doorways as well. It's that you're opening up yourself for anything and anything. And you find a lot of the time people who do these drugs, they end up going down that entity route. They start meeting like fifth dimensional ascended masters or time travelers from the future of human evolution, or the Palladians from, you know, tall greys or blues from the Palladian constellations coming to help us join the Galactic Federation of Consciousness or something. And they always have a different story, a different lie based on what the person wants to hear, I find, or whatever they'll believe, you know. And there's like a sucker born every minute with these people. And I think the demons who have been here for thousands of years know who will fall for it and who won't, and they tend to open themselves and reveal themselves to the gullible, and that's when they'll start telling stories. But then people obviously, when they encounter them in this realm and don't really have any preconceived notions, like a jester or something, like a clown. That's really common. That happens a lot, you know, clown-like, jester-like features. So I always had that banked in my mind as somebody who was just swimming in that world, you know. And it was popularized by Joe Rogan back in the day as well. He was talking about the jesters, you know. And like I said, when I kind of left that world behind and went closer to getting a relationship with Jesus and God, and went sober, that's when I started to get attacked. That's when spiritual entities started to turn up to me. And that's when I had sleep paralysis, shadow entities, the Hat Man come to me, being strangled in my sleep. You know,
sober and stuff.
Yeah. When I was leaving.
I had a shadow people
leaving it behind does that, it seems.
Like I felt like entities were above me, looking at me, trying to like consume my soul. And it was when I was 19, I got back from Cuba, and it was when I was drinking all week, and then I was sober, and then it just felt like they were trying to rip my soul off my body. I saw this like 8-foot tall thing in my doorway, and it was as real as like anything else. Like, and it convinced me. I was like, oh shit, there's something outside of this reality that I cannot explain.
Well, I had that soul-ripping feeling too. I had a moment where I basically went paralyzed in my living room, and it was my mum and dad's house. I was dog sitting at the time. Actually, they were out for the night.
Were you just sitting there chilling?
I was just sitting there, and then I just collapsed onto the side of the sofa, and I couldn't move. And then the room started to spin. It was like that mandala chrysanthemum psychedelic experience where you're going through into the other place, you know. But I could feel like my soul being ripped out of my body. That's what it felt like. It felt like something had grabbed me and was just trying to tear me away. And I was going blind. My vision was going. Everything was going black from the edges slowly, you know. And as far as I was concerned, my logical mind was telling me, Paul, you're dying. You're having a brain aneurysm or something like that. You know what I mean? That's what and I didn't know what to do. So I did say, and I managed to just croak, Jesus help me, under my voice, and then it stopped instantly. And that was for me one of those defining moments where it's kind of like, okay, so I need to start taking this seriously. You know, there's power in the name of Jesus, and whatever is happening in these experiences is spiritually based, and there's something. So I started to learn about spiritual warfare from there, and I have that personal experience that helps me have my faith, you know, that I can't deny. I can't lie about. I can't say it didn't happen, because it did happen. And, you know, you can believe me or not believe me. I'm not trying to convince you, but that's what happened to me. So I'm pretty solid with my faith.
And that's interesting too, because like, you know, I'm not really religious. Billy's not really religious, but we're both kind of raised in it for a bit. Billy longer than I was. And, you know, and I always questioned. I was like, was Jesus real, or was it based on Mithra and all these other, because I would just read these ancient books and stuff like that. And the more I get older, the more I get convinced that there's a possibility that obviously there's benevolent forces also interacting, but I definitely believe that there's negative ones because I've seen them, right? And it's interesting because I got a question about, because I like, there's people that point to like Jesus wasn't it was Ben Yosef, right? So do you know where we get the name Jesus from? Because I've heard that like that's not actually his actual name. And I've always thought, like, why do we use that name rather than Ben Joseph?
Well, God's name is basically YH. It looks like VH, and the letters being Yod He Vav He or something like that. And then you can pronounce that if you want as Yahweh or Yahuwah. And there's many ways through like Hebrew, which by the way is actually quite a new language. You know, the modern Hebrew. It's not as old as you think it is. So when people say his real name is Yeshua and all these type of things, I'm dubious about that as well. Now they say Jesus is the transliterations of Aisos, which is just the Greek, and everyone was speaking Greek, including Paul back then, you know, so that, and that's just a transliteration of Joshua into English as well. So his actual name in English is Joshua, technically not Jesus, but Jesus is just an anglicized version of Aisos, which is, you know, what his name would have been in Greek. And that's it really. I don't think it's as deep as people make it out to be, saying, oh, well, the letter J didn't exist until this point. It's actually Hail Zeus, and it's not. That's a leap to get there.
Yeah, well, it would have been intention too, right? Because either way, when you're in those maybe circumstances, or you're like in those situations, or you're at church, or in somewhere where you're like wanting to reach out to the whatever entity that Jesus is, the Son of God, you're giving the intention anyway, so it wouldn't probably matter too much.
No, I think language is language. Every language calls Jesus by a different name within their own tongue, and that's fine. You know, I think small mouth noises are not a limitation for God. Yeah. I think if you're talking when you pray to Jesus and you mean the one God sent to die for our sins and be raised from the dead so that we may have everlasting life through him, then I think you know who you're talking about. And I think God knows who you're talking about as well, you know. And just because, like, you may disagree with the alphabet being used to pronounce his name, I feel like those are like legalistic modern confusion arguments to get people away from the faith. And I've heard rumors, you know, and this is something like I talked to other big podcasters in the past, and I was told on good faith by a big podcaster, they were offered money, and they'd refused, but they were offered money to push the Hebrew Israelite sacred name stuff. His real name is Yeshua, Jesus is a lie, and all that sort of stuff. You know, they were actually offered money to start pushing that kind of narrative on their podcast.
Was the last name like
I don't trust any of it. I don't. I think the name Jesus actually is powerful, really powerful. And Aisos or whatever you want to use. And I think there's actually a real conspiracy right now to tarnish that name. I think it's the other way around. You know.
Yeah. We've talked about the JQ, the Jewish question, a lot in the show, of like how they're trying to subvert that, and like they don't believe Jesus even was their Messiah or die. Like the stuff they believe in the Talmud is pretty crazy. Like he's burning alive in his own semen and excrement and stuff like that. So the people probably offering that money maybe had the last name like Goldstein or something.
Maybe, well, I don't know, but the Yeshua again, I think is actually comes from Jewish mysticism or Christian Kabbalah, which was introduced to the papacy like 400 years ago. The whole thing is really messed up, man. Like, and I would say don't quibble over the name. Just make sure you understand which Jesus it is you're praying to, and understand what the Bible tells you about Jesus, and then say that's the one I mean. You know, that's the guy. That's the one I want to pray to. But at the end of the day, you're supposed to pray to the Father in heaven. You know, and it's through Jesus that you have this ability to have a relationship with him, which was prior impossible because there was no way to relate in a sense, you know, and it's kind of, God only saw you as in sin, but through Jesus, he only sees his spotless son, thanks to his sacrifice. So he gives you that pathway to him because God is holy, you know, and he can't be around sin. So it's kind of, that's the bridge, the gap has been bridged for us through Jesus, you know, and that his son that was sent. So as long as you understand that, you know, and there's no other name that will get you to the Father, but through him, then I think you're okay. And I think this argument over semantics is a huge confusion-controlled operation right now in the truth movement. I really do. That's my personal view, and as somebody who's been observing this for over a decade. Yeah, that's my take.
Billy, move your mic a little closer to your face.
Sorry.
It's fine. Before we get into the Nephilim stuff, just before, because I want you to dive into the aspects of like the ancient kind of story of how they were created and stuff, because it's so fascinating. Like, what a crazy, you could make a crazy movie about some of this stuff, like absolutely. And they've done similar things, but like it's even wild. But like all these entities that like the machine elves or the entities that people see on psychedelic trips, like I feel like I've seen like through the fractals, like some sort of demonic face looking at me. Do you think that it might be the same kind of entities? They're just like these trickster, a fallen angel kind of thing, and they're just playing different characters for different people? Or do you think it's different?
I think there's two categories of entities in the spirit realm, which is what you're seeing, which by the way is just Earth. Okay, the spirit realm isn't like some nebulous place you have to open a doorway to go to that closes the door to this realm. It is this realm. The spirit realm and the physical realm are the same place. Everything is spiritual. It's one cohesive existence. Our perception of that is just limited. But it's still here right now, happening right next to us, tangent to us, with us at the same time. I kind of describe it in like a metaphor as like it's the wiring behind the walls of this reality. Yeah. It's the plumbing of the universe. It's the pipe work. It's the code. It's the system. It's the math that makes this thing happen. It's
like when you see the Matrix. It's like when he goes like God form and he can see all of the like binary code and stuff.
It's an apt description, that the Matrix metaphor, but it's kind of like you need both. There wouldn't be one without the other. They're not a separate thing. You know what I mean? It's one functioning system, and we are embodied within it. And we also have the breath of life given to us by God. We are a living soul, a physical soul, but we have the spirit as well from heaven, which is the Holy Spirit as well. So there's three aspects to man: physicality, soul, and spirit. Okay. And you need to check which spirit you have within you, because you can have the Holy Spirit, but you can also have other spirits in you as well, leading you and guiding you and influencing you. You know, so you need to choose wisely what spirit you want to be imbued with. You know, but a lot of people don't think that.
There's like 9, when I was like young, like a teenager, it was like you have 9 spirits attached to you. Some are good and some are bad. And I was like, I need to stop using this thing.
Oh, well, I think we're all in some way under the whim of spirits without realizing it. And I think being born again and having the Holy Spirit take that place kicks them out and gives you back your authority, you know. And that's kind of why I think that's the real selling point for Christianity, really, because I think everybody who exists on the earth has had a spiritual experience with demons, and there's just varying levels of how much they're willing to talk about it because they're scared of looking crazy.
Yeah, and I think people out there nowadays, it's like you're definitely possessed by something.
Well, yeah, and these things, the whole point of possession, I think people have this Hollywood view of it, like The Exorcist, you know what I mean, where head spinning round and she's got cuts. But it's more subtle than that. What they tend to do is they live through your senses. So when you do something, they feel it through your fingers, nose, eyes, ears, mouth, tongue, and everything. They get to feel and sense those things because they don't have a body anymore. So they live vicariously through your body, and they would rather you didn't know they were there. They would rather stay hidden, because as soon as you know you have these things, these parasites, like passively feeding off of your sin, like the sex, the drugs, the alcohol, the food, the gluttony, whatever is your vices, you know, they're enjoying that with you. You know, and as soon as you realize they're there doing that, you see the parasite glomming onto you and like sucking all this energy out. Yeah, you know,
that's like
you would do something about it, right?
Yeah,
you do something about it.
They see the connection or whatever. Like David Icke's talked about stuff like this, right? Where he's talked to psychics, where they see like the looming energy over them, like connected in their chakras and stuff like that. Which chakras is some people could say is like, you know, baloney and stuff. But there's the new age stuff. I know that people are very skeptical about that. And it is interesting because we've talked about stuff like that where it's like a guy's at a bar, right? And a spirit, and it's a different kind of idea, but like a spirit that maybe was an alcoholic that died, and then they sit within the guy and just repeating that process. Even though they're dead, they're in this duality of like kind of consuming and feeding off that energy, right? Before we get started, Billy, do you have any questions? Did anything pop in your head?
I was basically just going to chime in saying, like, look, I've cut a lot of vices out of my life, but I've never been so conscious about the fact that I'm drinking right now.
Of course. It's how we started the show. We would have a couple drinks, talk about conspiracy theories, and it's like, it is weird to disconnect those like things that make us relaxed and stuff too.
I get it. Look, under Christianity, it's like, look, all things are lawful, but not everything's expedient. So I wouldn't say having one beer is going to damn you to hell or anything.
It's not one beer.
I think vice gets to the point where are you in control or is it in control of you? You just need to ask yourself that question.
Very much a struggling battle for sure. I've had a lot of vices in my life, and I've cut all of them out, and this one's a bitch.
Well, it took me about 10 years to get fully sober off everything. I only quit cigarettes or nicotine through vape pens about 2 years ago.
Are you still
and that was my last thing. And that took a long time. Nicotine's a hell of an addictive drug to get off, alcohol, was fairly easy. I was never a heavy drinker to begin with. Cannabis, 8 years straight, 5 joints a day, just went cold turkey on that one. And that's
crazy because I'm down to like a joint a day. Usually just like at the night, maybe, but I'll smoke one joint throughout the day, take a couple puffs, put it down. And it is one of the harder ones because even now, especially, I'm like, the government weed, especially in Canada, is probably sprayed with all sorts of crap, and it's not really like a mother, or it's not the thing that they were smoking in the 70s. There's no way.
No. Well, I remember I had one last blowout in Amsterdam before I quit. And this is just before I was this is in 2016. So this is 2 years after I kind of came to Christ. So I was doing work, I was working on myself for a while and doing that inner work that you need to do, like letting the old man kind of burn away and trying to become a new born again, new creation. It took time. It was so hard. It wasn't easy because you have these desires and these wants and these needs. And it's like, what am I going to do? Who am I if I'm not the guy who smokes weed every day? What am I going to do with that time now? And you have to confront yourself when you get rid of these things that help you ignore yourself. Because, when you smoke weed, it just makes you okay with being bored and okay with not doing anything and okay with ignoring your problems, But then you have to confront them once you're sober. You can't ignore them anymore. It's like, oh my God, I did these horrible things in the past. I'm a terrible person. I need to apologize to all these people. I've been putting this, and this off. My life's a wreck. I have no money. I've got no direction or future or plan, but I've been wasting my time. You start to realize, and it's heavy, So then you've got to spend years kind of working on yourself, building yourself up, trying to integrate yourself into life a bit more, get a job.
We can do that too, though. We can really so there's been times with edibles or whatever, and it's like if you're feeling like, and I've had this like paranoia and anxiety, like because of smoking weed or even eating an edible, that's something I feel like in your body telling you like you don't need this anymore, like it's not good for you. Like if you're gonna be paranoid and like self-conscious and like, oh, all these mistakes, whatever I've made throughout my life, then it's like probably telling you not to do it.
That's what actually happened with my weed journey, I guess, was the same thing. And I was always hoping every vice would quit me like that because it made it easy. I smoked every day for what, like 6, 7, 8, 9 years. And then one day I did it and I was like, oh, I don't like that. Did it again the next day, went, nope, same thing, put it down, never touched it again. It was not a conscious decision to stop. I was just like, ooh, gross. Nope, never mind. Don't do that anymore.
Well, for me, it was more of I finally had a conscience about the situation is a good way to describe it. Because prior to like kind of thinking about God and Jesus and reading the word, I didn't really have a conscience. I didn't think about the consequences of my actions much. And I didn't have a sense of this is wrong when I did things. But suddenly, because my experience was kind of strange. I think I accidentally baptized myself. I told the story a few times, but I was in a hotel room we call it a stag do. What do you call them over there in America? Bachelor parties, I think you call them.
Oh yeah.
And
stag parties, like where all guys watch porn together.
That's weird, but not quite like that. But we were out. We're out on the town, We were out getting drunk and staying at a hotel with my now brother-in-law, And I was in this hotel room and I had a bath there, and I've never had a bath in like. And then when I say that, I shower, I clean. I'm not saying I don't bathe. You gotta have a good bath. I hadn't had access to a tub in years. I don't think I've
who
lived
really
in
does? You get in there and it's like half the water's on you, and you're like, no, I'm just cold now.
Well, yeah, but I only have had shower cubicles wherever I lived, so it just wasn't there, And whenever I don't have time for a bath when I'm like at a hotel normally. You know what I mean? I'm on the move, I'm doing stuff, so I just hadn't been underwater in a long time. Basically, is what I'm saying, since I was a kid, But here I am, like 20 something. I think I'm like 23 at this point. And I'm in this hotel room and I'm like at the end of my tether, I'm burnt out from all the psychedelic experiences and the learning the truth about the horrors of the world and the conspiracy stuff, and I've been dabbling in Christianity, but I didn't quite know if I was ready to do that yet, and I had this moment where breaking down where I was like, all right, God, if you're real, show me, because I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't got a clue. I need help. You know, I'm lost. I have no direction, and I'm basically a drug addict mess. You know, I don't know what's going on. Help me, please help me. You know, and I just nothing. I didn't get a response. But then I ran a bath. I thought, why not? Here's a chance, you know. And then when I had the bath and went under the water, I just shot up out the thing because I had this rush of energy go through me. I've never experienced anything like it since.
Weird.
And it was like, I thought I was having a panic attack. That was my first cue because it's this rush in the chest, you know, heart pounding type feeling. And I'm looking in the mirror, like drenched, like panting. And then I realized, okay, I'm okay. I'm not in pain. You know, it was actually just a shock, like a real shock to the system, but it wasn't like negative. It was warm. It was comforting. It was strange. But I would say after that day, my life did change, and I suddenly had that conscience thing I was telling you about. I would light a cigarette, a normal thing that I'd been doing for like 10 years by this point, and suddenly I was looking at it like, what am I doing? Like, this isn't right, you know. And it's kind of the same for smoking weed. I'd smoke a joint, and I'd have this voice saying like, no, stop.
I need that voice.
But that was never there before. And this is what I'm saying. Like, I think I invited God into my life that day. And I think I made a covenant with him.
Right? Like that, like even water, there's like metaphors for it, or like, you know, like the natives believe that it like cleanses you, or they're like spiritual waterways or whatever. Like even to mention Chris again, when he had that crazy psychedelic experience, and he thought his girlfriend was a reptilian. He went and showered, and then like he threw up some black shit, and then he's like, I don't even know what it was. And then the room changed, everything brightened up, and it like shifted into something because he like almost cleansed himself somehow. And he asked for like God, I think, to like help him because he was having this terrible trip. And I'm like, it's interesting because if you put your intention out there and you're real about it, I feel like there's this chance where something might want to intervene. And we start shifting gears into like breaking down some of the Nephilim stuff because this stuff does interest me. It's like the oldest folklore to do with like aliens or whatever. And Billy, if you ever get some like thoughts, just like, because I know you're aware of this stuff, but not as much. Definitely ask some questions. Yeah, but 100%. The fallen angel stuff is like almost like it's older than like Bigfoot or aliens, or like we've always seen these depictions of grays throughout like in modern history especially, but this is the one that really is the ancient, like very interesting story. So I'm definitely excited.
I'll tell you the story is summarized as quickly as I possibly can. I will say, you know, my book, first 10 chapters, is that story. It's the entire story of biblical history to where we get Nephilim from and to the modern day, how we end up with demons, and all the histories there kind of summarized quite well for you and broken down. But if I was to explain it, it's basically when God created Adam, the angels were jealous. Some of them were not happy with the idea that they would have to bow down to and serve this creature called man, which is made a little less than the angels in their eyes, you know, in the image of God, sure, but some angels didn't see it that way. They saw themselves as gods already on the earth, and there's a lot of precedence in the Bible to say that there were actually people around before Adam, and this is again highly controversial. But if you read Genesis, it does say God created the heavens and the earth and the whole creation story. But it says, you know, I think it was on day 5 or day 6, God created man and woman, plural, and said, go forth and multiply and have dominion over the whole earth, over the fowl of the air, the beast of the land, you know, and the fish of the sea. Go forth and multiply and spread yourself all over the whole earth. And then after that, it says, then God created Adam from the clay of the earth and breathed life into him and put him in the garden. So 2 stories. Man and woman, plural, go forth, multiply. Adam, come with me. You're going into this garden. Okay?
Why was Adam so special?
Well, I don't think he was special necessarily. Yeah. He was just of man. He was of the creation of man in the beginning. And he picked a man. I think these early men were probably a lot more advanced than we are in terms of perfection. You know, they were as close to God as you could be, you know, so I don't think there was much there was no corruption by this point. Death had not entered into the earth by this point, you know. And I think he took a man, we'll call it Adam, put him in the garden and started to groom him and to teach him to be king over the earth, a king, a ruler, a righteous ruler, like a proto-Jesus, shall we say, you know, the original plan. His son made in his image, you know, Adam. And you know, eventually he made Eve after he named all the animals. By the way, even the angels didn't get to name all the animals. So the angels get to watch this new creation The angels were there during the creation, by the way. They were created by God, and they helped and watched God create the earth and then create all these people. And I think some of the angels were given dominion over places, over the people that were there, to watch them and to guide the people and to make sure they're doing well and they're looking after the land, you know. And they were gods over these people in a sense, small g gods, you know. They would have been, they weren't supposed to be worshipped as gods. And I think the angels knew their place, but they were definitely divine entities over humanity at the early time. And then suddenly they watch God take this man, who they, by the way, have been over for so long, and get put into this garden and be treated special. And I think some angels got jealous. I think that's what happened. Jealousy and pride.
They would have the ability to be jealous, to feel those type of emotions, you think? Like,
well, they aren't.
Why not?
Because wouldn't that be like a sinful, right? That'd be
it is.
Start to go towards sin, which is that why they start like when they start kind of reverting? Because they almost like started like a mutiny, so to speak, right? Like with
it's rebellion
and stuff. Yeah.
It comes down to rebellion at the end of the day. And I think the angels knew their place, and they knew the consequence of sin. You know, they weren't ignorant. And I think they were definitely fearful of the Lord, as you should be, you know, the creator of all things. And I think it took a long time, but you find that eventually a serpent approached Eve in the garden, you know, made from Adam, and convinced her to rebel against God's commands, basically. And that's what it comes down to. Oh, did God tell you you would die? Surely not. You won't die if you eat of the tree of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. No, he knows your eyes are going to be opened, and you'll be like him. He just doesn't want that for you. You know, he's just trying to hold you back. God's a cruel, evil, vindictive prison keeper, keeping you down, keeping you weak, keeping you ignorant. You know, he's just scared of what you'll become if you buy that apple, because he knows your potential and he wants to stop you from reaching it. That's the first lie. Because the truth is, you cannot get closer to God than walking in the Garden of Eden with God on a regular basis, having chats with the guy. They were already perfected. They were already sinless and perfect.
Did
they were
Lucifer
already
transform into the snake to trick
well,
him? Or was he...
I don't know. I don't want to definitively say that's what happened, because I think it's more of a birds of a feather flock together situation. I think there were serpentine entities on the earth. Maybe animals could talk then, for all I know. It's an Aslan situation from The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, you know. But either way, the serpent, the snake, probably had more of a kinship with the seraphim angels, who are the fiery flying serpents, the dragons. Okay, I think the watchers, the ones who were watching over humanity, the ones who rebelled, 200 of them rebelled anyway. I think they were seraphim, predominantly of the 200. I think the majority were fiery flying serpents, dragons. Okay, that's their form. That's their true form, in a sense, you know, or the main form they took. And I think it was more of a friend of my friend, so the enemy of my enemy is my friend situation. And I think they saw the serpent in the garden and went up to him and said, why did God choose that ape-like, mammal-like monster to rule over the earth? Surely the serpent is the superior being, don't you think? You know? And the serpent's like, yeah, why didn't he choose my race? Why didn't he choose my peoples, you know, to take over the serpentine race? You know, and I think that's what happened, because it says, because you have done this to the snake, because you have made my creation fall into sin and lose the estate in Eden, you are cursed to crawl on your belly and eat dust for the rest of your days. So they had legs. They were upright walking something or others, these serpents originally, and now they don't anymore. Now they're like something else, you know?
Yeah.
And I've heard other arguments to say, I think they were referring more to dust of the earth means man. Man's made from the dust of the earth. So you are cursed to eat humans for the rest of your life. And people say it's actually like parasites, worms, little worm parasites are demons, or at least this serpent creature from the garden originally, you know, they've been turned into this parasite that has to host off of other people, and they will feed off humans microscopically or something. I've heard that argument, but I don't know, but I'm not willing to say that was Lucifer or the devil in the garden. It could have been just something else, you know, but it seems like the angels definitely convinced at least somebody who was in the garden to go and corrupt Adam and convince them that God was a liar, you know. And anyway, that was the start of the problem.
It's different.
Yeah, that's the start of the problem, though. Jealousy and pride crept in. And then we find, obviously, after that, you know, they have Seth and they have Cain. So you have Abel and then they have Cain. Cain kills Abel. Cain is like, obviously, pride, jealousy. Why didn't God take my sacrifice? You know, and it's kind of, it's just not fair. You know, the same attitude started to come down and through the generations of people because of all this. And then I think once he was cast out into the earth after murdering his brother, it's an interesting story there. A very odd. It's kind of summarized very quickly in the early Bible, you know, in the early books of the Bible. But it says he was sent out into the land of Nod, so a place with a name. How's that possible if there's only supposed to be Adam and Eve around? Clearly not. There's people out there who have named things already. People would say, yeah, well, it was his brothers and sisters and they had other children they just didn't tell you about. And it's like, no, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. You're assuming things here. Is it more likely the people who went out and multiplied originally before Adam had built stuff and named things, you know, and took dominion over the earth as they were ordered to do? And then Cain wanders out into them. And Cain's like, don't send me out into the world. People will kill me. Who? Who's going to kill him? There's no one around, right? You know, you're the first son of the first man, right? Surely. Like, but no, because there are people out there who will see Cain as a blasphemer against their creator, and they'll be angry at him. So he was worried. So God said, no. I'm going to put a mark on you to make it sure no one touches you. So in a way, he's just been made immortal. Like, essentially, no one can kill him because I've said so. He bears my mark, you know. But you'll be a vagabond in the land. The land won't grow for you. You can work the land as much as you want. It'll never grow food. So you're a wanderer. You're reliant on other people, but you'll be rejected by all peoples. That's kind of your curse forever now, you know. So what does he do? He builds a city called Enoch, named after his first son. Now, how the hell has he got a son? Where did he get a wife? In the land of Nod. So he had sex with some peoples and created offspring and built a city. City need people to build them and people to fill them. So there's people that Cain has wandered out into. So he clearly. But think about this though. Cain walked with Adam, and Adam walked with God. Cain knew a thing or two. Had some knowledge, some serious knowledge. And I'm talking knowledge, uncomprehendable knowledge, wandering out into a land full of people who did not have that privilege. By comparison, he was a god. By comparison to these other people, so he subjugated, he controlled them, he took over. He was pissed off with God. He's like, well, fine. If the land won't grow for me, I'm going to take over the people and they'll grow the food for me instead. I'm going to own the cities they live in and they're going to answer to me. He had that domineering attitude instead. And so Cain's the first city builder, the first master mason, if you want to call it anything. You know what I mean? He's the first one who had that domineering attitude. And if you read like Josephus, one of the first century historians, Jewish historians, he talks about Cain, and you find writings about what Cain did throughout the history of the Jews, you know. And he says that Cain introduced weights and measures. Now, to us, that's nothing. That doesn't mean anything. That's like so trivial to us today. But to a peoples who had no concept of property or dividing lines, who were one with the land, that's a big deal. Now there's borders. Now there's a concept of mine and yours. Now there's division and ownership. Now there's war. Now there's possession. Now there's greed. Now there's pride. Now there's covetousness. If you see how one thing leads to another after Cain went out into the land, corrupting people, you know. And I think as Cain went on doing his thing, domineering, raising his children up to hate God as well and do the same thing, you'll find there's two lineages in the Bible: the lineage of Seth, and you get all the names, and then you get all the way to Noah. Then you get the lineage of Cain and all the sons going after each generation. And it was the sixth generation of Seth in the generation of Jared, which is when the Watchers came down on Mount Hermon and talked to the people and started mingling with them. And I think he went to Cain. I think they went to Cain's children, to Cain himself probably. And it's more of the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Do you think God allowed this then? He wanted this to happen to like have some duality in this like realm?
I don't think he wanted this to happen, but it's inevitable. Once that sin was made and mankind was corrupted, now they're set on a path that has to be completed in order for him to bring them back to salvation, which was finalized with Christ's work. You know, all of it led to Christ eventually, you know. So I think it's more of like mankind has to play out now. There's no other way. It's like kind of like, all right, you want to do this the hard way. This is what happened, you know. So now this is our entire human history is us doing it the hard way, getting back to God when we were already there to begin with, you know. So we're going to do it ourselves. So he lets it play out, but he obviously intervenes to those who are faithful to him. And that's God's, the entire story of the early Bible is God trying to make a people for himself in order to bring into the world the savior of all mankind. Okay, and those people are constantly falling away and disagreeing with him and worshipping false gods, and he has to chastise them and punish them, and it's just a battle, one battle after another, you know. And that's human history, that's the human refrain. But eventually he gets out of the people through David to Jesus, this righteous sin, a man who commits no sin and is punished for all the world's sins, you know. And it's wonderful. It's a great story. It's a long story, but I'm trying to give you this early day. You know, these angels come down, see Cain. And I think they're like, all right, you hate God, and so do we. We're pissed off that he made you to begin with, but you're clearly pissed off with God that he kicked you away from his family and made you and cursed you with this thing. How about we work together to just destroy God's creation? And I think Cain was like, count me in, take my daughters. And I think the angels were like, and it even says, you know, they made a pact on Mount Hermon. It says, look, let's agree now to mutual implications of what we're about to do. We know we're going to get punished hard for this. We know the sin we're about to commit, but let's make a pact now that we're not going to back out, and we're going to do this together. And two of them made that deal that they're going to go and mix themselves with human women and create something that shouldn't be, something that does not belong in the natural order of God's creation, to corrupt it, to destroy it. And that's what they did. That was the plan. And they worked with Cain to do that.
The anatomy in general of the two, you think they'd be compatible? Or no?
Well, this is the thing. I think it could have been done. Well,
like,
no, but I think angels can shapeshift. I think they can become like.
Oh, I guess so. Yeah, I was thinking more like magic. Like,
well, I guess maybe genetic engineering in clinical lab settings, for all we know, too. We don't know what they were dealing with back then, realistically, in terms of technology. These things are beyond space and time as we understand it. People argue, well, I know it says in the Bible that angels won't marry, and you won't marry or have children in heaven just like the angels. It's kind of like, yeah, well, that's more of like they shouldn't do any of that. Not that they can't do any of that. You know, I think people don't understand that the angels can do it. They just shouldn't do it.
It's like a priest shouldn't have sex, but then sometimes a boy intrigues him. Well, the Catholic Church is a little different than Christianity.
I was going to make a joke, but yours was worse.
Look, I'm not here to support religious institutions. I'm just here for a relationship with God. You know,
100%.
But yeah, the point is, you have this jealousy and pride thing going on. We're going to destroy God's creation. And to do that, you know, when you mix a fiery flying serpent dragon monster with a human woman, what you get doesn't look human.
Do you think that's where the reptilians come from? Do you think that's the whole
Well, in a way, we can get into that because the story does go on from here. It gets a bit weird, to be honest. But I think what you get is something that looks like a clown. You get a dragon-human hybrid. Okay, that's what you get when you mix those two things together.
When we get to it, I want you to see if you can bring up some of that stuff, because I think it will blow Billy's mind, because I've seen some of it, and it's like even it will. I know it's later on, but some of the ancient cultures in the African, like that, they do that ritual where they spin around and like corn stalk or whatever that thing is. It's some of it's so weird, and I was like, so crazy.
Yeah. So if I can share with you guys the screen. Is there a way to do that here? Present?
Yeah. It should be down there.
And then
Zelda is so interesting, and it does tie into a lot of these things that I think people are going through today, and are they possessed by some of these beings? Like, you see the way that, you know, these in Canada we're subversive, and there's the trans stuff and all that. It's pretty the people just seem so corrupted. I know all of us are to some extent, but okay. Yeah, wait to bring it up because it should be. It's on our screen. Yeah,
not mine.
There we go.
Okay. So you guys can see this right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see this little thing. So this is just a file I've whipped together, top examples of the Nephilim throughout history, and it's a bit of a hodgepodge mix of things here. But when you mix a human and a dragon together, what you get is something like this.
So crazy.
Oh my God, it's Tom.
Yeah. What a bad day.
Yeah, so you get it. You can see this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty terrifying, right?
Yeah.
How about this one?
Yeah, that's crazy. Look. And that what culture is that from?
This is from Bali, specifically. Okay. This one. This is more. So you would call this it's primarily Hindu influenced.
I was gonna say
primarily in that
these
region.
either like these look a lot like the Hindi statues, and also look a lot eerily similar to a lot of the Chinese statues too.
Yeah, well, they're not far from China. They're not
Do you
far from
think the
China.
Hindus are
Bali.
worshiping demons? Because a lot of people think that, and I'm like, I tend to believe that could be possible.
Yes, they're not worshipping demons, but the Rakshasa, like this one, for example, which is another example of what you get when you mix a dragon and a human together. They're intimately linked with the mythos of the Asuras and the Rakshasas. The Asuras are the good ones, and the Rakshasas are the bad ones, and they're in this
What is he
eternal
doing to
fight.
that brown guy?
He's tickling.
He's
him.
tearing his stomach open.
Oh, he's tickling him.
Or that.
I think it's a little worse than that.
Never mind.
But as you can see, pale white skin, huge wide grin, massive bulging eyes, and red flares are very common with multicolored patterned like clothing or skin or something. Here's a one from Sri Lanka. This is on a stamp.
Scary looking.
It's not a stamp.
Yeah.
Wow.
This represents a demon of sickness, which comes from this fellow. Let me just quickly find if I got a recent. This dude he comes from. So this is in Sri Lanka too.
That'd be scary.
And this is
that's a foot coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
geez,
one of the many masks or illnesses this thing creates to go and wipe out villages looks like that stamp I just showed you there.
Interesting.
Yeah, this stamp, it's one of the masks that they wear, and they use these masks to heal people. That's kind of what they're going for, really, because they think all sicknesses are caused by demons.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what they do is they dress like the demon in order to coax it out of the person or to mimic it in some way or to create a connection to the demon. They dress like the thing to channel the thing, and this is what they think demons look like. They look like clowns by our standard, our description. Here's like the Azura Mudmen, for example. In Papua New Guinea, they white up the skin, big wide grins, smiley teeth, red as well.
The middle guy doesn't
these...
really look like he'd eat too much. You're not.
Well,
you're
these are just stylized masks. Here's a tribe in the same place in Papua New Guinea.
Oh yeah, it's so weird because it does look like a clown.
White face, polka dots with a red nose. Well, this is a very isolated tribe, disconnected from the modern world. You know, they have nothing to do with us. Why choose this? Because it's what spirits look like, and the only spirits we have are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. So you know, as the Nephilim ate up the people and the land and all the provisions in this ancient past after they were created, it got to a point where God saw how terrible it was and how the whole earth was screaming for help, basically, that the punishment was that the watchers who made them had to watch their children kill each other. So the Nephilim wiped each other out in this bloody war for power, basically, in struggles. And this is basically the Titanochemy of Greek mythology. And they basically, once that was over, there was no OG original Nephilim left, you know, the half angel, half human hybrids. I think their children and their grandchildren were alive, and the quarter hybrids, angel human hybrids, the ones that had like a more diluted bloodline. But I think the originals were died out. And then it says there was like a 250-year period, and the book of Jasher kind of fleshes this one a bit more, where mankind decided to genetically engineer themselves. Because mankind was all corrupt by this point as well. They were all demon worshipping, Nephilim worshipping, fallen angel worshipping cultists by this point, you know, except for Noah. Noah was still cool and still understood who the real God was. But by the end of the...
Nephilim was like eating people, wasn't it? And like children.
Oh yeah, they were going around devouring people, just destroying everything. It was horrible. You would not have wanted to encounter one of these things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, weird.
You can't even comprehend how bad it was. Like, and this is how bad it was. This is why the flood came at the end of it all. After they killed each other, the earth was still a mess, and there were still these power structures everywhere created by Nephilim worship cults, you know, which were made by the sons of Cain, like Lamech, for example. And it's kind of, and his first son Enoch, who did the same thing. Now, Enoch the good, was on Seth's side. Enoch was actually, I think, like the 8th generation. And the first generation Enoch, who would have been very old by this point, like 1,000 years old, he'd also been around creating sun worship cults, dragon worship cults, angel worship cults. But the one Seth's lineage always stayed true to God, but they kept falling away until there was only Noah left by I think it was
that's what I find
10th
interesting.
generation.
Like, there's other people I've heard, Dustin Nimoy's and he talked about some of this stuff with me, and it is interesting because it's like this idea that they corrupted mankind. And then when they talked about like, well, why would God wipe out all these people, all these human? They weren't human, according to like some of the people I've talked to or stuff I've looked into and stuff I've even heard some like you or other people that are Christian that really dive into this aspect of what was really happening is that no one was human, so to speak, like left other than Noah, right?
Give or take, yeah. I mean, I think there was this element of humans had tried to Nephilimify themselves, turn themselves
like
into
GMO
something
people.
other than human, something like a mutant, like an X-Man with power, X-Men with powers. You know, they used to be men, X-Men. You know, and I think because the
Interesting. That'd be
angels
kinda
knew.
cool, though.
Yeah, because I think the rebellion was still going on. Now, the 200 watchers who mated with humans were locked away in chains, so they weren't around anymore. But there was still plenty of angels in rebellion who knew, okay, well, we can't sleep with women and create offspring because the punishment's too great. We're not going to do that again. But we can teach mankind to corrupt themselves. I think that's what happened. And then mankind took it upon themselves to try and make themselves more powerful and stronger. And I think this is where cryptids come from. Mothmen,
Bigfoot and
Bigfoot, lizard man, lizard men,
Skateboard,
anything where it's like a human animal hybrid. You know, I think this is where these things come from. This early mermaids, for example, sirens. You know, what's the one that flies? Harpies. You know, a centaur, half horse, half man, or the Taurus. You know, the one with the bull head and the man's body. And these animal hybrids are created during this small slither of time just before the flood. And I think this is where it got to the point where it's like man saw that everything was corrupt. Animals have been blended together. Humans have been blended with animals. And there was nothing but wickedness and cruelty in their hearts continuously. They were all murdering each other and trying to fight each other and dominant for power. It was just disgusting. It was a hellhole. There's bodies strewn all over the place of the giants just rotting away, creating the mountainscapes we see today. You know what I mean? It was just a hellscape of unimaginable proportions.
That the mountains are giants? Because I've heard that theory, Billy.
That's how they ended up there. Yeah, after that Titanotomy, that war, the bodies have got to go somewhere. You know, they're just laying around, and these things were enormous.
Have, like, faces on them and stuff, like just weird things. Billy, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, like, honestly, back in the day too, like, can you blame them? Like, honestly, like, you're just a human living there, and someone goes, "You could be this really cool thing," you'd be like, "Kind of want to be."
Why wouldn't you be? Dope. How else would you survive in such a horrible
I want to do that.
Yeah. I talk about it in the book. I actually have a whole like opening section where I describe the day in the life of the average person living in that time. And it's exactly how you describe, you know, it's like, why wouldn't I find a way to get in touch with the gods through the oracles so that I can get a gift from them so they can teach me how to become superhuman? Because this is rough. You know, I've got monsters on the highway, like chimera monsters, griffins ripping people apart that I need some strength to be able to defeat, like on a daily basis. I've got marauders going everywhere, raping and pillaging and killing everybody all the time. And it's kind of like, why wouldn't you take an edge to give you that advantage in a highly competitive environment like that? It's like Skyrim on steroids, you know what I mean? Like, it's just absolute chaos all the time. So I imagine, people would take the choice, and that is what happened. And all the while, Noah's over there building this boat, and everyone's like, "Get a load of this guy," you know. But I think some people may have listened to him and thought, "Like,
going to be a good boat.
Well, if there's going to be a flood, maybe I should make myself into a fish man. You know, that might come in handy." And I think this is where all these things began to happen. And I think this is how we still have this phenomena today. I think some of them did survive.
Because you think some survived, right? And like, it is. It's such an interesting story, right? And how like they were like essentially trying to corrupt everybody, and then it's almost like not to the fault of their own of being like, well, you know, and do you think what I was gonna say now? I remember. Do you think like that's what some of the elites are like praying to, and like, you know, like someone like Marina Abramovich, you know, doing these weird rituals or like eating human cakes with Lady Gaga, stuff like that? Do you think that they're actually all these like Freemason type secret societies that are doing these weird rituals, things like CERN? Do you think they're connecting with like these Nephilim beings and pointing back to the same thing?
It's communion with the demons. So when you do things like that, you're making a conscious effort to show them, I'm on your side. So I will sacrifice children and drink the blood. You know, I'm not for Jesus now. So come, you're safe with me. and reveal yourself to me, and let's make a deal. I want the strength of 10 men and the ability to read minds, and at the same time, I'll let you use my body for whatever you want. It's a transactional deal. This is deals with the devil, deals with demons, is very common, and this is the practice you find all over the earth. In fact, it's called ancestor spirit worship in many places. But the general rule of thumb, and again, if I could bring that back up, the presentation I was showing you earlier. So here we go. Can you see this again?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Here,
these people who like
it, click on the see if you can widescreen it just for. There you go. Oh, yeah, weird. Is that a real person? That's scary.
It's a person, yeah. So this is the Theyyam tradition in India. It's in a very obscure part of Western India. And it's actually very old. They say it predates Hinduism, this is what they're trying to say. But it's this thing they do every year where this one guy dresses like this, okay? Red nose, notice as well, fangs, red mouth, multicolored pattern, fractal patterns all over. And basically he channels the spirit that he's dressing like. And then the whole village gathers around and asks it questions and for things. And they offer it things like chickens. And the guy who is possessed by the spirit will bite the head off the chicken and drink the blood and all this type of thing, you know, because the demon inside wants that. And then in return for giving it stuff, it'll give you stuff like information or strength or power or whatever it is you need, you know.
Well, yeah,
and in Africa,
because that's that idea, right? That the demons are giving them something that they want, like fame in this life, like say a Kardashian or something, and they're giving him, and they're trading something. I said that for a while, and I've talked with Billy and stuff. Is like this idea of like I think that you know, when you're here, you get all this fame and fortune, but in the next life, you know, you could be tortured in some sort of horrible way or something, like whatever, like hell may exist. But yeah, you should definitely go through some of these and tell us what they are, because this is what this is fascinating.
I got a quick question though. Do you think it's possible to asking for a friend? Do you think it's possible if you were to go like, all right, you know what, I'm gonna do something crazy, I'm gonna make a deal with the devil kind of deal with the demon or whatever, he's gonna give me all this shit, and then immediately after you go, now that I got it, psych, I'm with Jesus, actually I'm gonna go back that way.
Well, you won't be able to keep hold of it.
The good. Is that possible, you think?
Well, no, you would only have the power in so much as the demon's there to facilitate it.
Right.
So I think if you got rid of the demon in your life, so would disappear the benefits that it gives, well, the supposed benefits it gives you, you know. I think that's how it works. Like, you can't serve two masters, unfortunately.
I know.
And you can't pull the wool over God's eyes either. He's not dumb, you know.
Yeah, like we always measure that weird Jewish ritual where they're like projecting their sins into a chicken, thinking they're tricking God, and they like kill the chicken. It's so bizarre.
It's Ronald McDonald.
It's dumb, isn't it, when you think about it?
Ronald McDonald.
But yeah, but this for example is the Wanginas of the Kimberley regions of Western Australia. Now these things are all over the caves in that region. They're painted everywhere in mass numbers, and it's supposed to represent a electrical rain god, and that's supposed to be rays of electricity beaming out from behind it. But it looks like a red afro, doesn't it?
It is weird because people point like, oh, it's a gray alien, but no, when you look at it like that, it is kind of strange.
Yeah, well, the story of these things is that they are the offspring, the physical manifestation of the rainbow serpents mixing themselves with the earth. So that's quite a colloquial way of it saying dragons came down and had sex with women, basically. You know, it's the same thing.
Question: Do you think that the people that are being corrupted by this trans agenda and the rainbow stuff, do you think that this has anything to do with it? Dressing like clowns.
yeah. I think a clown is a clown is a clown, whatever name you want to give it. And I think a drag queen is essentially just a glorified clown.
Yeah, it's so true, yo.
It's the same costume. I don't care about the ideology behind why you're doing it. I think the issue is if you dress like something that mirrors something in the spirit realm, you create a channel to it. So you have the fighter Khan, for example, in...
well, it's like over-exaggerated features and stuff like that, especially in the drag queen thing. It is, it looks like a clown. Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It does, and you have to wonder what spirits within them to make that manifest to begin with. You know what I'm saying? Like you do have to wonder. So you have, like, for example, the fighter Khan, which I think it's the Philippines where they do this, but they dress in these masks here with huge wide grins, as you can see.
It looks like this is Halloween, with all the kids are dressing up. Weird.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, you could make that comparison quite easily. But you have a lot of this, and it's this huge grin, like as you can see, and
that's trippy looking. Yeah.
And they believe they're dressing as the spirits of the dead. And that's what they believe they look like, and they go through the village every year, and it's to commemorate the time when the Buddha turned up and chased out all the evil spirits. That's what they try and commemorate through doing it. It's kind of odd, really, when you think about it. But again, this is another Papua New Guinea tribe, and they have this whole mythos that the white giants will return and destroy all the earth at some point. It's very odd, but they consider the red headdress as important, and the red nose and the white skin as well. Same as this little boy here, same tribe. It represents power. It represents something important in their history that they kind of remember. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, when you start to look at all these images, go down the ones where they're all in the outfits. What one is that from? The four people in the.
This one here. This is a Buddhist. This is a Buddhist mythos. These represent spirits of the dead.
Mm-hmm.
As you see, they got little skulls on.
Mexican kind of what is that saint? That weird tradition.
Is the big grin supposed to be more cynical, or is that just genuine happiness at this point?
They don't see death as the end necessarily, but Buddhism has this cyclical nature of life and death and rebirth, don't they? The great wheel. And I think this just represents the death aspect of all of that, to be honest. And but the idea is the spirits have this look to them. You know what I mean? Yes. And I think we get confused.
Is it praying look? Is it a lion? I got you, buddy. Or is it genuine happy? I'm curious what the smile represents in general, because they're always huge.
I think this is the thing. I think they're trying to mimic something that they understand from the past, because skeletons don't look like this. They don't actually, but maybe a Nephilim skeleton would have looked like this.
No, I get what they're doing. I'm just curious what the smiles are for in general.
I think it's they don't see death as something to take seriously as well. So I think there is a joking aspect to it. Why
all
they would do this.
All the people in the red outfits down that's weird.
Yeah, so this is the Selknam tribe of the Tierra del Fuego. Queen Charlotte, I think
that guy's just hanging out.
Yeah, he's right south in wrapping paper.
Yeah, well, exactly. Right at the south of America, the southern tip of America. So this tribe is actually extinct. They were wiped out and genocided.
None of them can see
by Portuguese and Spanish farmers.
Do you think that maybe Portuguese were onto something? They're like, what the fuck are these people doing?
Well, they were supposedly stealing livestock from the farms. This tribe, the natives, and they were given the green light from the government to go and basically just kill them.
There's always a
wipe
reason.
them out.
There's always
can you actually super zoom in on their eyes? They don't have eye holes.
No, these are costumes they would wear. So they have this ritual, this tradition. It's like a coming of age ritual for young men. And when they turn, I think it's 12 or 13, they have to go into this ritual. In this dark tent where these men dressed like spirits and harass them and scare them and they obviously take drugs as well. All sorts of things go on during this ritual. It's called Hain, and they basically scare the crap out of them. And then at the end of it all, they come out a man. But this is what the spirits look like.
And then you're you're going to when they're colonizing certain countries, and then you're in the forest, with your musket or whatever, and you just come across these, you'd be like, what the fuck? Bang, bang, get away from me, demon! Especially back then.
Yeah, here's another example. So they would have been red and white. They would have been red and white.
Pokemon creature.
I was like, it looks like a rabbit. Yeah, it's like Pikachu.
Well, it's a jester with jester horns.
Yeah, weird.
It's the same thing. This is the DMT jesters, you know what I'm saying? And every country kind of has this black and white line effect when showing these monsters. This is Rangda, the demon queen, for example, from Hindu mythology, Balinese mythology as well. So this is another mask of Rangda, the demon queen, as I showed you earlier.
Frightening.
It's a very different rendering of the image as the previous one.
Well, the thing is, I think every culture has their own aesthetical way of depicting them.
Yeah,
because they have their own art styles, you know what I mean, and their own materials, and
they
their
are
own
very similar
nuances.
in very different, exaggerated ways, but still kind of the same.
Yeah. So this one has its tongue sticking out with a big wide toothy grin, for example, and this is a Rakshasa mask of Sri Lanka again. But when you actually pay attention, let's look at the aesthetical. They have serpent hair, wide red lips with a wide grin, tongue sticking out, bulging eyes.
Botox.
Let's just take that, and then you look at this: tongue sticking out, wide grin, colorful skin. I do have more. You got these ones here again from Bali: wide grin, snakes, black and white fractal pattern lines. So you start seeing things emerge.
And
so
they're not afraid of them. They think it's a cool guy. Like they want to hang out with him. Go down. What about the 80 rock star haircut? Go down the red. Go down more.
This
the
one?
80. No, go down again. Just beside the big mouth.
Oh,
yeah,
this.
Yeah.
This is from Kabuki Theater.
Yeah,
in Japan.
Japan, right?
Yeah, I was
And
like,
in
that's
China
anime
as well.
for sure.
These are the dragon masks, the demon masks that you would see. It's their
That
version of it.
hairstyle, though.
Yeah,
you
and you've
think,
got
like-
the Oni.
Do you think like people like we're not gonna take it, like they're just dressing up like clowns also because they look like it?
I think a lot of 80s pop fashion was themed heavily around this, to be honest.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think
It's
they
so
introduced
crazy.
fashion to us to get us to dress like them on a regular basis. That's
To
something I go
worship
into
them
quite
in
a lot
some
as well.
regard, right?
It's interesting.
Yeah, because I think there's no ignorance of the spiritual law doesn't make you immune to it. And I think if you dress like something in the spirit realm, you mirror it, then you create a channel to it. And if just because you're not aware you're doing that doesn't mean it's not happening. And I think they quite often popularize the clown in media and get people to dress like it for Halloween, and also in a way introduce clothing and fashion styles to us every now and then that promote this mimicry of the spirit realm. And yeah, who knows? We're playing with fire, really. I mean, look at this, for example. This is Medusa. This is Greek now. So this is what Medusa actually looks like. Not the snakes for hair, as we often see in more modern depictions. This is what the earliest depictions of Medusa are. It's the same creature. And obviously, in this rendition, it did have snakes for hair.
Yeah.
You know? And so it does happen,
that's
you know.
freaky.
But you actually have, like, here's another example: red hair, dreadlocks, wide grin, tongue sticking out, pale white
Very
skin.
clown-like.
This is Medusa again. Here she is on a piece of pottery with snakes in the hand, huge, horrible wide grin, tongue sticking out, massive head, multicolored fractal pattern clothing like a clown.
Do you think they saw
If
these
your
things?
teeth
Or...
went ear to ear.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, well it's a trait
No cheek.
inherited. It's a trait that they inherited from their dragon parents.
Oh,
So
yeah,
here's a
'cause it
dragon,
kinda
for
does go
example.
ear to ear. Yeah.
Snakes can dislocate their jaws to eat their prey.
Yes,
Not dislocate, they can.
but yeah.
It's not like we
Unhinge.
would do it. They were
Unhinge,
never
yeah.
attached to begin with. The jaw it opens really wide.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? So and here's like in Africa, for example, they have their ancestor spirit dances. They dress in that fractal black and white pattern I was telling you about.
That shit's
What
weird
is
though.
that?
I've seen the ones where they do the weird dance, and it's like
Is that
what, like,
wool?
like they're wearing a big thing of hay, and like it looks like it's starting
Yeah.
to float. And there's some weird. I've seen some weird stuff, and you think that they're trying to possess them within those outfits, right? The Nephilim, kind of.
Yeah, well, they do. They dress like the thing to get the spirit to possess them. They'll tell you that. They'll tell you that's what they're doing. It's not a secret. It's just it's open. It's an open, known thing to them. Here's Rangda the Demon Queen again in Balinese theater. Another example:
Weird.
white skin, red hair, bulging eyes, red lips, snarl teeth. Here's a more modern depiction of the Wanjinas. It's even got the polka dot pattern on the
It
chest
is
there.
interesting
It's
because
got
people
the
are like that's gray every time. Like they're like that's a gray alien, but it's obviously
a
something
clown.
deeper. And the more that you look into this stuff, it is interesting, right? Because it's like maybe the whole reptilian stuff is not actually like not snake-like creatures like what we think they are, but they're actually the Nephilim, not like these reptilian alien creatures.
Yeah. Here's another African ancestor spirit worship dance. He's a witch doctor, Kikuyu witch doctor. So a shaman who channels spirits in order to heal people. He goes for the white skin, red lips, red hair. It's common. It's over and over. It's the same motif over and over again across these cultures. I mean, this is just a few. Like I have thousands of these things. Maybe if I where would I keep? I can't remember where I've kept them now. Let me just quickly.
I appreciate you,
well,
Tom, for not making an eyeballs joke to me yet. I've been
Yeah.
waiting. I've been sitting here waiting for it.
I go to
Yeah, yeah.
YouTube and I go to
Here, I'll take it off screen just while we're talking and stuff.
Sure.
As you go look through that, I'm gonna ask a question. So
Go.
after the fall, right, of what happened, and they got casted down here, and then what happened? Like they laid kind of dormant and hidden for kind of a while, or were they always kind of influencing us throughout all of time? Maybe doing these things like creating wars and terror and all that stuff to kind of consume our energy. Is that like kind of the idea?
what, the Nephilim or the
Yeah.
angels?
The Nephilim.
No, the Nephilim straight up went out originally and just took over the earth and became the kings over the antediluvian
And they
earth.
were the descendants of the fallen angels, right?
They are the fallen angels' children. Yeah,
Okay,
quite
yeah.
literally with human women. And they just literally took. And the thing is, you have to understand, by creating a offspring that's half human, often they would impregnate queens and daughters of queens and daughters of kings and stuff like this, or impregnate the queen, so that what's born is a legitimate heir to the rulership of a region. So they were very litigious with how they did it. They're very clever about it. And you'll find most of the kings of the antediluvian age were Nephilim by the flood, or descendants of Nephilim at least. They have angel blood in them, so that gives them the divine right to rule. That's where that comes from. So
Billy, you go. What were you gonna say? Because I have a question.
I was just saying, it's always it's just with the way we speak and the way you kind of put it forward is it's always a man fallen angel impregnating. Can it go the other way? Are there women fallen angels?
Well, angels are technically sexless. So
okay,
I
so
think it's more of
anything, I guess.
I think it's more of they can just find a way to get their DNA into a human woman and impregnate them.
Okay, so I guess
it's not really
modifying them. Yeah.
Interesting.
Because
I
guess if they had the baby, then I guess that wouldn't be seamless. Makes sense.
Well, no, it was horrible. A lot of the women died in childbirth. There's lots of stories of that as well.
Oh.
If you read the book of King Og of Bashan, and he was a 13-foot king who had a bed made of iron, which was 13 foot long, which is described in the Bible. But he apparently has his own book if you go and read it, and it's horrible. But he's basically talking about how they have no women, they have a fertility problem, and he pins all his hope on this blessed moon child female who would birth many.
Crowley,
but anyway, it then goes on to say that Nimrod basically murdered her, and he's angry at Nimrod, and it's this really crazy thing.
Yeah, because I'm all down for like the really disturbing, fucked up shit, because this is what we kind of do on the show. But like, is it Nimrod that like had sex with his mom, and then like, was it Nimrod that did that? There's someone that like didn't one of the ancient gods, they had sex with his mom, and then they killed. I can't remember the story now.
Well, yeah, kind of.
Which one?
There's people think perhaps one of Noah's sons had sex with his mother, had sex with Noah's wife, and birthed Canaan. And then Canaan was cursed, and it's through Canaan the Nephilim come back, including Nimrod. So it's kind of I think a bit of hearsay here and there. There's a lot about Nimrod we don't really know, to be honest. We have a lot of myth about him, and people say he may even have been Gilgamesh, or was he really a Nephilim? People say he was described as a mighty man, and all the Nephilim were also described as mighty men. However, not all mighty men were necessarily Nephilim. It seems like Nimrod really wanted to be one. He went out of his way to rediscover after the flood all the hidden technology and methods to corrupt your DNA again, and he tried to do it to himself to become a mighty man. And that's all we really kind of know. But then you have these stories of him battling with other Nephilim, like the King Og, for example, and winning. So who honestly really knows? He's a mighty hunter before the Lord, is how Nimrod's described. So it seems like he may have had Nephilim features, or at least Nephilimified himself after the flood by rediscovering the lost technologies, and unearthing and digging them up, and finding them in the ocean and things like this. So it's really hard to tell.
The Tower of Babel is connected to this stuff of them trying to like reach God or like become like gods.
Well, to make war with God and kill God was the plan.
Yeah, that's so
that was the plan. That's how ridiculous these people were. They really had a hatred for God in their hearts once they corrupt themselves, it seems.
You got the images back up. Some of these are crazy.
Yeah, so this is I have
the famous clown stuff. Like it's coming up like now with the Joker. Like it's stayed kind of within Hollywood too, and
yeah. So here's the Nephilim, as I mentioned earlier. The one where the whole village gets involved. This has been going on for a long time.
Whoa.
And then you've got
scared.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. And then you got modern day Shriners, for example. They all have a clown sect.
I grew up next door to a guy, and he was a Shriner. I didn't know, like, he just smoked pipes, and I was too young. I wish I could have asked him stuff. but he was like a legit Shriner, ride around the little cars. And then when I
Yeah.
heard you talk about it, I was like, oh, weird. Bud,
Why
when
do
he
they
was
have why
worshiping? His
it
name
makes no
was Bud,
sense. It's
'cause
a Middle Eastern Arabic themed sect of Freemasonry.
Yeah.
So why do they have Western
he was like
clowns?
a big white guy, and it was like a normal guy. And his name was William, but his brother was like mentally challenged, so he called him Bud. And he was like the nicest guy. But then I'm like, now I'm thinking about like, what were you worshiping, man? Because he had like a little hat and would do like he would go to the fairs, like he would help set up the fairs and stuff like that. And
I think a lot of them probably do have good intentions
Mhm.
and do think it's all for charity. I think some of the higher up ones really know what it's all about. I mean, here's a feathered serpent. Here's Quetzalcoatl, one of the ancient gods, for example, of I think there's a Maya culture and Aztec culture as well. And the plumed serpent. And I think these are the fiery flying serpents that had dominion over regions and then decided to corrupt themselves and be worshipped as gods above God themselves. And here's other examples of cultures making dragon masks even
That's
today.
trippy, yeah.
And then when you mix
hair is gonna be in my goddamn nightmares. Thank you, appreciate.
well, you get a snake with hair, you get the
hairy
Nephilim. You know,
snake.
that's what you get. Here's another African ancestor spirit worship tribe.
That's what I'm
with a
saying.
lot of
Imagine you
heart.
stumbled across these people when you're just walking in the jungle and you're like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, like this thing. You see this in
Weird.
peeping out of the bushes. You know, it would be pretty weird. Yeah. The red and white fractal patterns. This is what the spirits look like to them. This is what they're trying to channel. Polka dots, another really common thing.
Some of them consuming psychedelics maybe, and then seeing this and trying to replicate it?
Yeah, a lot of them are. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of it's through shamanism, which is heavily linked to psychedelic use as well.
Yeah, some of the outfits are wild looking.
Here's that tribe of children I mentioned with the red nose and white skin, a guy found in the middle of Papua New Guinea.
Did they eat him? Just kidding.
Yeah, it's crazy they embraced him.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Well, yeah.
Like,
People,
we don't know what a
well,
camera is, but sure.
well,
What do they think of white people? Are they like, oh, this is the Nephilim?
I think they do see white people as powerful. I think they do make associations. And I think the problem is a lot of people have made out that white people are evil and are actually the Nephilim because of this whole white skin situation.
Oh, I've heard that. I've had videos go viral about certain things going on in the country or whatever. And some black guy responded to one of my videos, and he was like saying how white people are like demons and we're like part of the devil, and I was like, nice. I said that something about like he was essentially, it was a video of me saying like it's not racist to want to preserve your culture or whatever like that, right? And I'm not racist because I want to preserve my national. And then the guy's like literally being like, all white people are demons, you're descendants of like and I was like, cool. Crazy.
Yeah, well, here's another Papua New Guinea tribe. But no, I think with the misconception comes that the Nephilim had this vampiric paper bleach white skin. Not like me or you with like peachy pinks, you know, not Caucasian. They were this deathly look, you know, and that's obviously the clown makeup style. So here's the Buddhist things that they were mimicking.
Dude, if I saw that on mushrooms, I would probably cry in a corner.
This is what they were mimicking earlier. You know, I mentioned earlier about the masks. Why do they have that smile? They're trying to mimic this. This is what they think the spirits of the dead look like.
Because you have like the Hercules thing where they chain them the fallen gods type of thing, right?
The Hercules?
Yeah, and they chain him in the underground or whatever.
Yeah, well, Hercules is the quintessential Nephilim creature. He's never really depicted as a clown necessarily. Yeah. I think there's many varying ways in which a Nephilim can present itself, and I think there's also a lot of shape-shifting stuff going on. But I think predominantly, Hercules is actually a standalone, goes against the grain situation, because actually most of the demigods in other cultures look like this every time.
Yeah,
all the time. In fact,
and is that
Hercules just suddenly doesn't? So I do.
Cage the giants. Was that like was there any truth to that, or you think like within ancient lore and stuff that they actually did cage some of these Nephilim and giants to try to suppress them from intermingling with humans?
Well, no, I think that whole idea that, you know, the Titans were locked up in Hades or Tartarus, that's talking about the fallen angels, who the Watchers, who were bound in chains as a punishment for creating the Nephilim.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
yeah, cool.
in the bound in chains till they're released at the final Great White Throne Judgment, and I think that's all the Greek is like referencing there. And I don't think they were the same. It's not the same thing as the Nephilim. Not at all. Yeah. No, I think it's just like it's like a stylized version of the Watchers being chained up. I mean, here's another example of the Rakshasa masks in Sri Lanka. This is what you get when you mix a human with a dragon. It's not pretty. It's terrifying. And this is where we get our modern day clown costume from. So, like I said, secret societies know this. They're heavily linked with the clowns. Yeah. Here's the Shrine of Clowns again. This costume is the same thing. If you dress like this, you're doing the exact same thing this culture's doing here.
So what do when we now with all the child sacrifice stuff, where does that, especially that clown with that little girl down there? It's like, where does all that stuff? This ties into it, does it not? Because they're like, the idea of like corrupting the most innocent thing and then using it as some sort of energy source to like consume the adrenochrome. Like you hear these stories about them producing adrenochrome and then they drink it and then they hallucinate. Like some of these elites, they'll hallucinate and see like demonic beings. Oh yeah. Weird.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's this from?
It's all linked. It's all linked.
Is that?
This is Doja Cat.
Oh, she's like, it looks like a reptilian, man.
Well, she's trying to like a clown. She's got green hair, big wide grin, red lipstick, you know. She'll tell you they made me famous, you know.
Doja Cat is she looks like she's the one that has a song and she like her eyes shapeshift into a snake and stuff like that, and there's definitely a cult.
She dresses like a demon in one of her recent releases, right? Like a black demon or something like that with horns and everything.
Yes.
Look, I mean, the whole music industry is rife with the same practice. Red lipstick, pale hair.
Yes.
Like the music industry knows the secret. You dress like the thing to channel the thing. Okay, it's the secret. In fact, you know what I mean. This is
movies, like Art the Clown, from like
you got It as well. A shape-shifting interdimensional demon entity that feeds off the fear of people to make itself stronger.
Well, you think about it. Stephen King was doing tons of coke and he was drinking whiskey, and then imagine these things are channeling him to write that story, and then has the weird thing with the kids like having an orgy and stuff, and like he obviously was being, in my view, probably possessed by some of these things while he's writing. He's all coked out, you know, like taking shots out of whiskey, and then you know it could be, man.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Look, they know. This is what I'm trying to say. People in the industry actually know this. They're not just like making it up out of nowhere. They're not that clever. They're just taking the facts and making money off of it. Okay, that's what they're doing here. They're looking at these other cultures that know full well when they dress this way, they know what they're doing. They know what they're channeling. They know what they're trying to communicate with. But in the West, we don't believe in that kind of stuff. Okay, it's mysticism. It's silly. You know, it's woo-woo. It's nonsense. It's superstition. We're a very secular part of the world now, but we're also a very Christian part of the world as well. So if demons were just openly, brazenly possessing people who dress like them, and someone somewhere is going to call them out in the name of Jesus and cast them away. Okay, someone somewhere.
Examples too, like I saw the Venom picture, like that's true. Like, and they look very different, but then still same but different. Like they do, like it is like so, and like the whole thing of like you know, like Ronald McDonald and the McDonald's corrupting you and stuff like that. Also, and the clowns with kids, and then it goes kind of back to this whole thing of like child sacrifice that I think is taking place. Yeah, weird.
Yeah, so when you dress like this thing and then you sacrifice a child, then the thing is already being channeled, so it experiences the pleasure of killing a child and drinking its blood. Do you get what I mean? Like it's there's a deal going on here, and this is why I think it's beneficial that, well, if in the West I can dress like a demon and channel it, but everyone thinks I'm just dressed like something a bit fun for the kids, then you're hiding it, aren't you? You're hiding behind a veil of laughter, of humor. Of,
what do you think about John Wayne Gacy?
Yeah, like clowns are just silly. You know what I mean? Like, don't worry about it. I'm just here to make people laugh and smile. No, these babies aren't laughing and smiling. They know instinctually deep down what these things are.
Do you think that's why people have the fear of clowns? Because like we always knew like there was always that one girl, especially like when you're younger, and they hated it. Like the movie It, they'd be so scared of it. And you think that's like something like that in their memories, maybe like this. It could be. When they talk. Because it is weird, and I would show this one girl like the DVD, and she would like cry.
Yeah, are you talking about Swiss?
Yeah.
No, we did that all the time. Like, hey, look at my phone.
It's a clown.
We were mean.
Well, look, I think it might be deeply rooted in our DNA. Because I mean, humans have the privilege today of not knowing what it's like to be to have a predator above us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To be prey. It's very rare we're in those situations.
I feel like we are,
even
but we don't
today.
know it.
Well, even today, even if we were in like a jungle with a tiger, we have a gun. You know what I mean? Whatever, like it doesn't matter what you are. Like a decent sized caliber will blow a hole in its brain in a second. You know, it's not like we have that like it used to be. Now imagine having giants walking around eating you. You are no longer the apex predator. There's something else stronger and faster and more powerful and smarter than you. It's half angel, for God's sake. You know what I mean? It's got like divine powers as well. And it can mess with your brain as well as your physicality. It's kind of, you're screwed. So I think deeply rooted in our psyche, in our DNA, is this predator response when we see something that looks like a clown. And, nature itself warns you bright colors is danger, 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 run.
Yes. That's why you stay away from those blue-haired liberals, you know?
Well, yeah, look, here's an Aztec. I think this is Mayan, this one of the serpent with the red nose and the red mouth again.
Weird. Yeah, it is.
This is the Kratos in Portugal. They are dressing like demons, they'll tell you. And they do this just before Lent and Ash Wednesday. And they have this massive party where they go around with their sticks, dressed like this, harassing young women and knocking on people's doors and stuff.
Like Krampus.
Yeah, it is the same. It's the same tradition. It's called the Wild Man of Europe. Every country in Europe has their own version of this. But the Wild Man is basically the European flavor of Nephilim. In Europe, they were a lot hairier because it's colder. I think that's why they have more hair. But if you go to India, they're practically just naked because it's very, very hot. But you talk about the same creatures. You're talking about the exact same creatures. So, clowns have the frill around the neck. That's an inherited trait from reptiles, the reptilian frill. Here's the frilled lizards of Australia, for example. And I think even like royalty understood this.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. That's crazy. That weird thing that they would wear around. I always thought that was
a beard.
It's a ruffle. It's called a ruffle. And the more starched your ruffle, the tougher it is, and the bigger it is, the better, the richer you are. Here's the god of death and the underworld in Aztec culture. Weird. Right here on the left. It looks a lot like the things you saw in the Tibetan culture. The masks that they were wearing. So these things are depicted everywhere. There's the Gorgon again. There's the fighter con tradition again. This is obviously in Thailand. The spirits of the dead with the big wide grins. But then the costumes are very similar to what they're doing in Portugal.
Again, do you think that the rainbow cult has something to do with this too? Just because there's so much of that being pushed, because they're like essentially going against the covenant with God, right? They're mocking it to some extent.
In many ways, I think the rainbow was placed in the sky after the flood as a covenant with God that he wouldn't flood the earth again, as like a promise to Noah.
And then they're making fun of it essentially.
Yeah, but I also think the rainbow suddenly existing after the flood is interesting. So there weren't rainbows before the flood. And you could say it has something to do with water being around now, causing the prism to appear when light refracts.
Heard that before. That's a thing. Nobody ever mentioned rainbows before that.
Well, it's like, as a covenant, you now have a rainbow. And this is a sign. Every time you see the rainbow, think of that as a sign from me that I'm not going to flood the earth again. It's kind of like, so were rainbows just not around prior to that? Was it like a new thing, When you think about it, though, I mean, if the spirits of the Nephilim suddenly become disembodied and you can perceive the spirit realm, then there's no point in them being dead physically because they're still interacting with you and corrupting you and communicating with you and messing up mankind and teaching them nasty things, you know what I mean? And communicating with mankind easily. So I think God, in all of his mercy after the flood, limited our perception to the narrow bandwidth of the color spectrum of the rainbow. And I think that was done so we couldn't perceive them anymore, so they couldn't influence us anymore, and to protect us from the spirits that infest the earth now, the parasites that are everywhere, the Nephilim, the demons. And I think when you take things like psychedelics, you're just blasting open your senses again and perceiving more than the rainbow. And therefore you can start seeing them again and communicating with them again.
Because there's like
which
colors
is why
that we can't see. Like this idea of seeing only a small fraction of reality. I don't know how much time you have left, but like I would like to, if we can get into, I know there's more to the clown thing and where they originally started getting into the clown. Yeah, you've collected so many images. Some of these are crazy.
Yeah, so this is where the clown comes from. I can give you a brief history.
Yeah.
So this is Harlequin. Harlequin was introduced, as you see there on the left, in this white patchwork monster mask looking club wielding beast character in the 1500s into a traveling troupe of European actors coming out of Rome of the Italian tradition. Now, for 1,000 years, from like 500 AD to 1500 AD, these guys were doing their thing all throughout Europe, and then suddenly they introduced this character. Now, this is a stock character.
Do we know
no matter where they went in Europe?
They got it from? They don't know where they got it
Yeah,
from?
well, yeah, no, everywhere in Europe would recognize this character.
Yeah.
Because he represents something called the wild man I mentioned earlier. And everywhere in Europe has a wild man tradition. So this is modeled after European wild men. This is a Nephilim creature.
Yeah, it's Sanctuary. What movie is that? Where Disney and it has that guy that wears like the jester mask and stuff. The Hunchback.
Oh, you're gonna drive me nuts. I'm googling it.
That
The
guy,
Hunchback of Notre Dame, Quasimodo.
Yeah, but it looks just like that one character that's like the clown that when he's up on the stage and they're throwing like that's crazy. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. So Harlequin, was supposed to be a demon. That's his shtick. He's quick-footed, witty, crude, and rude with his stick. You know what I mean? Like poking it on people's backsides, that type of thing. And everywhere you go in Europe, they have this version of it. Like this is their version in Spain, for example, in a very isolated part of Spain. So as this traveling troupe traveled around Europe and kind of saw this repeat pattern of the wild man, they introduced it into the theater because everyone would recognize it. And that's Harlequin. That's where you get this character from originally. And he's supposed to be a demon. Anyway, as the time goes on, Britain adopts the tradition of the Commedia dell'arte and creates the pantomime. And the servant of the rich man is Harlequin, as you see here. But he also has another servant called Pedrolino. Now, Pedrolino is where we get clown from. This is where you get a clown from, traditionally speaking. And Pedrolino is the Italian name. Poirot was the French name. And in England, they called it clown. So, because clown means clodhopper or fool in British slang, basically. And the British version of Pedrolino is hilarious. Here's Harlequin, the rich man, and the clown having their little shtick. You know what I mean? This is what they do for fun. And basically, Harlequin would steal the daughter of the rich man, Columbine, and he would run off with her. And then the old man and the clown would chase after Harlequin and the daughter to try and get them back. And that's the joke. Yeah. So there's Columbine being whisked away by Harlequin, and the clown and the old man run after him.
Weird.
What's that?
Columbine a ritual? Just kidding. Just because.
Well, it's the daughter of the rich man in this particular setting. So let's just leave it at that for now. I'd say, but that's the joke. That's the gag. And as time went on, Clown started to behave a lot more like the original Harlequin, a lot more demonic, a lot more cheeky, a lot more crude and rude. And Harlequin stopped looking like this and started to look like this. Like a fancy lad about town, a bit of a ponce, you know what I mean? A bit lame,
I'm
and
sorry,
the clown,
Harlequin?
No, Harlequin.
Harlequin.
Harley Quinn, like Joker's girlfriend.
That's what I'm saying.
She's named after this character.
Oh, okay, but all the pictures, I thought we were looking at men.
They
beforehand,
are men,
not now.
Mm-hmm.
No, the men would play the role of Harlequin traditionally. Harlequin is named after Helikins, which is the French version of a club-wielding giant that went around terrorizing France. So that's where you get Harlequin from, Helikins. And this is Pedrolino. This is what the Italian clown looked like. Plain white servant rags. Okay? This is the French version. This is Poirot. This is how France changed Pedrolino.
We got the
and then England decided to make this thing. Okay?
Yeah.
Completely detached from the original. Massive leap. Okay. But up until about 1799 in England, he would look something like this still. Very similar, plain Elizabethan rags, nothing special. But then suddenly this wild leap happens out of nowhere. But I looked into it, and it turns out the son of a very famous Freemason called Charles Dibdin was given the job of running the theatre at Sadler's Wells, where this actor, Joseph Grimaldi, was performing. And he was given the role of clown, and he was a very funny guy, very hilarious. Everyone loved him. Like I said, this is what clown used to look like here on the left. Then suddenly he has a costume change when this son of a Freemason takes over, and he starts wearing this dress here.
Trippy.
It's a very odd looking thing. And then the makeup gets added as well, and it's all like this odd looking monstrosity out of nowhere. And it honestly, it blew up. It was huge. Everyone was like, what is this? This is nuts. Okay, so this is the son who did it. This is Charles Dibdin Jr. And this is the father, who's a very famous, prolific Freemason music playwright, songwriter of the day. Anyway, it turns out they're heavily linked to India. What's that?
Probably heavily involved in the occult.
Oh, definitely. He was a Freemason. I've got it all on record. I've got he was of the Leicestershire Lodge. It's all there. But the East India Company was colonizing Britain at the same time, and his brother Tom was involved with colonizing this region here. And he was going to move to India, but he couldn't set sail because of bad weather. He loved India. He was heavily, intimately linked with it, and he brought over with him the iconography of the Rakshasas of India, as I've been showing you masks, you know, with the big wide grins, the tongue sticking out, snakes for hair. So this is the Rakshasa of India. This one's the Kalasung Sang, the upside down demon, as it's known. And then obviously Joseph Grimaldi was modeled after that, basically.
Yeah, you can definitely see that.
So the new clown costume, which was introduced by Freemasonry in the 1800s, was quite literally modeled after the Rakshasa demons of India. There's no two ways about it. I can even get you a better picture of the costume, which I don't have here, but if I quickly just Google Thailand temple Rakshasa, can you guys see this?
Yep.
Yeah. And then if you look at what's adorning the temples,
yeah, weird.
You got this thing right here.
Huh.
And that is the costume I was just showing you there that Joseph Grimaldi was wearing, which seems to have vanished. Where is it?
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
Weird.
So you can see the similarities, right? That is basically the same thing.
The same thing, yeah.
And then we got the jester, like in you know, they make fun of the king, and he was the only one that was allowed to, and
yeah. So there you go. That's where they got the iconography from. So there's no two ways about it. Clowns have always been a representation of a demon. Okay, like as far as like modern British clowns go, that prior to that they weren't. They were just Elizabethan servants, but then they got changed into this basically. And since then, this became the industry standard for demons. Sorry, for clowns. This is what everyone was copying from then on. There was no other way to dress if you were going to be a clown anymore. That's how you would dress, and that's where we get these from. This is where this comes from. This look, this costume change stuck basically.
They do look freaky. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and it became, like I said, the standard. Here's Freemasons again.
Yeah,
look at this
weird.
horrible looking thing. Templars, you know, and that's where we get this look of a clown from. It's from that costume change that happened, and it's evolved into this, and it's now the standard. Here's a colorized version of what
demons.
Yeah, so then you look at circuses, and all circuses are actually run by Freemasons, or the Shriners at least in America, and they were for a long time, and predominantly still are today. The early circuses of America, the traveling circuses, all run by businessmen who were all involved with the craft, and they all banded together and put a giant show on about King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, like 10 circuses, all Freemasons, and they all paid Freemason companies to make the costumes that would make the same costumes for the lodges and all this type of stuff. And then you find this is when what's his name got involved, the Greatest Showman. I'm blanking his name now. He had a brought the freak show into the circus. God, what's his name? I don't know why. Let me just Google it. It's going to kill me if I don't get it.
Barnaby Brothers.
Barnum. P.T. Barnum.
Yeah,
P.T. Barnum. Yeah. He got involved in circuses quite late. He was 60 when he got involved in the game to make a lot of money. He invented the three-ring circus. Now, P.T. Barnum was also a Oddfellow. He was a member of the Oddfellows, which is a Freemason.
Can you explain what that is for the people that don't know?
Yeah, so it's an offshoot of Freemasonry. Here's a few very famous members. You have Albert Pike right there in the middle. He was also an odd fellow. And there's P.T. Barnum next to this very large, heavy-set fellow there, just sat down looking very old. And yeah, the Odd Fellows, they have a lot of powerful members, kings, Senate members, presidents, prime ministers of other countries as well. King George the Fourth I think the fifth was a member, you know. But they also have singers, actors, performers as members as well. It's an odd mix. Charlie Chaplin was an odd fellow. And anyway, Freemasons. And guess what their logo is? It's 3 interlocking rings. Odd fellow, 3 rings.
Well, then Albert Pike was, it supposedly predicted all the wars.
Yeah, Albert Pike wrote the book Morals and Dogma. He was the leader of the Scottish Rite Freemasonry. He was a 33rd degree Mason as well as a member of these other cults. But as you can see, the logo, the Oddfellows, is 3 interlocking rings. And it was P.T. Barnum who invented the 3-ring circus. Yeah, so he brought his own occult imagery into the circus himself. But then if you look at a ringleader, or a ringmaster, shall we say,
and it's like they're almost like doing this like a ceremony, or so to speak, right? And like maybe
it is
like the ringmaster's conducting like this ritual to, maybe take control of these spirits, kind of thing.
So the worshipful Grand Master of a lodge also wears a top hat. Okay, same thing. He's the only one allowed to wear a hat in the lodge because it represents the crown of Solomon. They don't even hide this. Even the basic websites tell you that's what it means. And I think what they did is when they made the circuses, they basically copy and pasted Freemasonic lodge rituals and made it something called a circus for the public. And what does King Solomon here? What does this ringleader represent? He represents King Solomon. Now, King Solomon used a ring to control demons. I'm sure a picture will come up if I just Google this. Here he is controlling a demon. And yeah, he had this magical ring, this signet ring, supposedly, that helped him. Well, it helped him summon demons in order to control them for his own benefit.
Jews
and
he used it to demons.
He used it to build the temple. This is what they say. We don't really know what the seal was. It could have looked more like this. Everyone's guessing.
I don't know if this is too controversial, but what do you think of all the Jewish control stuff? Like, does this relate back to some of this stuff, in the end? Like Kabbalah,
it's all Kabbalah.
I know that.
It's all linked to Kabbalah. Yeah, it's all linked to communicating with demons. And here's an image of him using the ring to control demons again. And he used it to build his temple.
This is wild.
Okay, but at the end of the day, the ringleader of a circus, which is King Solomon, he is the Lord of the Ring, the Ring
Lord of the
Master.
Rings.
Okay, yeah, Lord of the Rings, and he orchestrates the ritual or to control the clowns, the demons. So it's all symbolic of this Solomonic Freemasonic ritual.
Do you think J.R. Tolkien was an insider? Like he knew what was going on?
I don't know. I don't know anything about that. Maybe. It's possible. It's hard to. I don't want to point fingers, but I can say for certain at least P.T. Barnum knew what he was doing because he's there as a member. Of these secret societies.
It's interesting because like these people that like who knows if that's possible or whatever, that maybe they have inside information or they don't even know that they're being like. There's this idea of like our thoughts our own, or are they sometimes being just plucked and dropped into our head, right? When you have thought where you're like, oh, that's why am I thinking that? Like is something else kind of taking control?
Well, who knows?
Stuff, yeah.
But there's the whole thing kind of summarized very briefly and quickly. I go into more detail in my videos and in the book, but as you can see, clowns have always been representations of demons, specifically the Rakshasa demon of India and the wild man of Europe with Harlequin. People dress in these costumes in other cultures to channel the spirits in order to gain stuff from them. And we also dress like that, but we don't know we're doing that. We call it a clown costume and think it's just fun for the kids. So it's hidden from us. It's a cult. It's an occult symbol. But people in secret societies clearly know what it's for because, as I mentioned, circuses, the ringleader orchestrates the clowns. Solomon uses the ring to control the demons. It's the same metaphorical, symbolic reference. So they know what they're doing. Shriners dress this way. A step above shrining is called the Royal Order of the Jesters. And that's invite only. Very few get to that pinnacle level, but that's pinnacle Freemasonry. Being a jester, you have to wonder why. It's so very strange when you actually think about it, but when you get this involved, it makes a bit more sense. So yeah, that's the Nephilim like clowns theory in a nutshell, basically. There you go.
Billy, before we you have any other thoughts? But
I was going to say
the spider web.
The absolute full takeaway from this: just stop eating at McDonald's.
Basically, yeah.
Boy slop. Yeah. That's what they're feeding you. Yeah, it's crazy.
No, that is wild though. There's a lot of freaking webs to this that we've kind of ingrained in just regular society to be like, oh, that's normal, that's okay, and to look at something like to see it in a different way. Like I even said from the beginning, like it's weird to hear somebody talk about something in a sense of something that you're not looking at it the same way. Meaning, like even when I was drinking, I'm like, damn. Demons getting this. It's not just
there's that even the thing is like was it cigarettes sound like cigarette, and that was like a temple of like demons or something. Like it's like interesting of some of that, like and
it's good to be aware, it's good to be conscious, it's good to be like to observe this stuff, and it's interesting to hear that kind of side of it because I've never really had that broken down
because you've never heard of any of this
so
stuff
simply,
right?
Yeah, well, look, no fear. Okay, look, these are actually a defeated enemy. They're actually very weak and pathetic. All it takes is just saying the name of Jesus and these things run away like that because they don't have authority. They have no actual power. They were defeated when Christ rose and resurrected, died and resurrected.
But they're still here, right?
Well, yeah, they're still here, but we have authority over them. We can cast them out in His name. We're not under the thumb of them anymore. We're not.
But for
just
the people that don't know,
well, I think. Even if you're not a follower of Jesus, you could still call on His name, and that power alone would protect you. But if you really want to be safe and not let them come back in, I mean, if you kick a demon out, it'll come back with 10 more of its buddies. If you leave it empty, keep yourself open. Ideally, you want to fill yourself with the Holy Spirit, so no other spirit can come in. And then
because that's like alcohol too, spirits, and they can take.
I was gonna say, long story short is no drugs, but Jesus drank, so I can drink. Wine only.
Well, that's the wine he was drinking is not the same wine we drink today, mate. I'm telling you that right now. But look, it's best not. It's not expedient to drink regularly. You know, I mean, is it going to condemn you forever? Probably not. But at the same time, it's a slippery slope, isn't it? I mean, it starts with just one drink, and then before you know it, you're a full bottle down, and you say, "Let's go out in the town, lads. Let's do it." You know, you have to be careful because you lose your inhibitions, and once you're open, anything else can come along. But I feel like once you have the Holy Spirit in you, that desire changes. You don't want to get drunk. You don't want to drink. Totally it's a true transformation, and I can attest to that. It's real. It's not just like words. I'm not just saying these things. Like you become a new person, and that conviction finally comes on you. And it can be slow, it can be quick for others, and you will change, and your desires will change, and your needs and wants will change, and you won't miss it. It's not like you can't still have fun either. You know, you find other ways, and I suppose you get high on life. To sound like a cliche, it really is true. You know, in many ways. But in terms of this whole Nephilim situation, like don't fear them. Like they don't have power. They only have so much power in so much as you give it to them. So these tribes are asking for it. Give me stuff, and I'll give you this. But at the end of the day, once the demon's done with you, he'll kill you or get rid of you. He doesn't care. Doesn't care about you. It's not your friend. You know what I mean? You're a transactional item to it. You're a means to an end. And you get these other people that are kind of deceived, especially like the DMT cultures, who think they're communicating with spirit guides or some nonsense like this. And I'm saying, if you look into the history, the biblical history, there's nothing good on that other side. If you want to talk to God. He'll send his angels, so forth. But what you're dabbling with in that spirit realm right now is just parasites, just demons. Just stay away. It's not worth it. You can get nothing
definitely
from it.
Definitely seems like that's what we're living in. A lot of parasitic entities, like governments and stuff like that. Interesting stuff. So fascinating. Really appreciate coming on. It's just like we've had, we started off the show not really having guests, but over the last couple of years, we've had people either that I'm interested in having on or people email us. And it was just so fascinating, such interesting, because I find all the stuff so interesting, and that I think there is some truth to all of this stuff. And it is interesting because it's, you just see a clown, just say you zoom in on something, but then when you zoom out from it and you see this like spider web forming of where it came from and all these different cultures that are all worshiping the same type of thing, it is this big spider web all being connected inherently to the same spider on the inside, right? These maybe like demon worshippers, and it's interesting.
I didn't know it would go that far. Like I said, I'm not like interested in clowns. It just kept coming and rolling and happening when I started pulling on that thread. Just because I had a few thoughts in my head that made me think, something to do with clowns and demons here, and just looking into it led to one thing after another. And like I said, 8 years later, 10 years later now, in a book, and halfway through the second book, it's just got ridiculous. Even I didn't anticipate it, but once you see things, you can't really unsee them. Unfortunately, it's just one of those, isn't it? It was always there. Just to prove it was always there. There's one episode of Supernatural made in 2006. This is long before anything to do with my work, and it's about a circus clown who eats people, okay? And it has to be invited into your home. It's kind of like it's vampire rules, you know what I mean? And this little boy invites it into its house because it follows him home from the circus, and it eats the boy's parents. Is how the episode starts. Anyway, the boys get involved. The boys get involved, and they do the research. It's like, this is a Rakshasa demon from India, is what they say. Right?
Oh, weird.
And this is way before I even I only discovered this 8 years after my work. That episode existed, where they made the link between the clown and the Rakshasa.
That's crazy.
They know.
It is.
They
so
know.
Weird. Yeah,
because
I've never watched that show, but like I've had buddies that are like, "You would love it. You should watch it." And I kind of want to watch it because that's like some crazy. Like I'm such.
I've never watched it.
Yeah,
I never watched it, but I made that connection, and then lo and behold, the media had already made that connection like over like a decade and a half prior to me even getting involved, because they know. They know these things, and they use them to their advantage, and they make money off them, and they make some fictional episode on some crappy TV series because it's a money maker. Or they make a whole book franchise called It, for example.
100%. I really enjoyed this. Me and Billy will close the episode, but tell people where to find you. Like tell them like we know the best ways to kind of support you and check out your stuff and everything.
Sure, I'm on YouTube primarily. My channel's Understanding Conspiracy. Just look for this logo here. I have another channel called Understanding Creativity. You can see the logo just behind me here as well. We get into the occult in art, which is quite interesting. But you'll find me on YouTube. You can email me at understandingconspiracy@gmail.com. You can get the book on Amazon. Just type in the Nephilim Look Like Clowns. But there's an entire 43 episode series and a playlist on my channel called the Nephilim Look Like Clowns. We can get the information for free if you just want to get visuals and watch how it unfolds. The early episodes is just the ramblings of the insane. It's just me spewing stuff out because I've discovered something crazy, But I would say the latter episodes after like episode 20 are more put together documentary style presentations because I finally figured it out, But the early episodes, it really is just me rambling like a madman. So just bear that in mind.
Those are
they're not the best.
Those are great. The best.
But, well, I guess so. I don't even look at them. I'd cringe if I watched them back now, I bet. But like I said, this is like over a decade in the making, really. But that's it. Go to my channel. I do discuss other things. I am a conspiracy theorist channel first and foremost, and I've got a lot of things on there. I have a podcast called The Truth of Therapy Sessions, which is streamed every live Sunday on YouTube and then uploaded to podcast format afterwards. You can check that out too. I do a live Q&A every Wednesday on the channel as well, and I make videos in between. And that's it. I'm on Patreon. I'm on PayPal. You can find me everywhere. Just type in Understanding Conspiracy or the Nephilim Look Like Clowns, and you
just plug your PayPal.
Yeah, I mean,
that's awesome.
You said how to support me. That's one way. That's
I love
the thing
that.
Is that because I'm in Britain. It's the only way I can do any form of international transactions. So I can't get paid by Patreon if I don't have a PayPal. Do you get what I mean? It's really trippy and annoying. So I'm kind of trapped into Elon Musk's little web there. There's nothing I can really do about it. Yeah,
awesome. Thanks you for joining us, man. I really enjoyed that. Awesome.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Man, that was awesome. Take care.
Bye now.
Okay. So to end this on, while I have you here, pretty interesting. I'm sure you have to piss.
Oh, dude, I'm rocking right now.
Do you want to go pee
did everything
first?
I could. I was like,
this?
Clearly he's got a time limit here, and I can hold in.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna see what your thoughts were at the end, just because it is pretty wild.
That's super interesting, and it's fun to hear stuff like that about somebody that's clearly done like such specific fucking research on something.
It's creepy. It makes you think.
Awesome to hear. And at the end of the day, my biggest takeaway, I don't like McDonald's anymore. I'm scared now. I don't want clowns.
Well, and it makes you think about all the stuff that we do, like drinking, smoking weed, like all these little things.
You're feeding something else. And that.
Yeah. Is that what's going on? That part
might get me sober just because I don't like that. I don't like knowing someone else got power over me. That pisses me off. I never mind that substance had power over me. I don't like that things have power over me.
Or can maybe
Like
consuming
pee-pee.
your energy, right? You
Yeah.
think about that when you're like fucking just cranking her. You know what
If
I
it
mean?
was just me and I'm just masturbating and just fucking drinking, I'm good. But if I know
if
someone's
there's
watching,
something-
enjoying,
yeah.
now I don't want to do it.
You know, think about it, some weird clown creature, you know, is like over top of you while you're like cranking it, and then it's like, oh, Billy's going at it again, and then he's just consuming your energy, and it's one of those like big teeth, like looking demon things that look like a clown.
Thanks.
Man.
Now I can never mastorbate again. Appreciate that. I hope you see that next time you have sex with your wife.
Just come on its
I hope
teeth.
you see a big fucking toothed.
I'll whiten up your teeth. I'll whiten them up so good. So
Gross.
fun. This was fun.
Bye, guys.
We're not. Let me share out the show. Make sure to support. I appreciate everybody that listens and watches. You know what I mean. And some stuff like this guests are really interesting to bring on, especially someone like Paul. And support the show. 5-star rate and review. Support the Patreon. There'll be more content coming out there. I have ideas for stuff that me and Billy can do once we start building up more content for the show, for all the stuff. Like, stuff is free, so the best way to support us is Patreon or buy some merch. We don't even make much money off that, but those little things do help, and it's even, $3 a month for the Patreon to kind of help us and support us, keeping the lights on, because this does cost me money, is much appreciated. And more stuff like this is going to be coming. Maybe I'll get Billy on another episode with a guest, because it is interesting to have different people's ideas, and you don't really know much about this stuff, and are not down these rabbit holes like I am sometimes. I'm like kind of sitting inside of it, and it's interesting. So definitely support the show. We love you guys, and stay strange.
Bye.